Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Today we'll be recording episode 47 of the series and episode 2 of chapter 6. So episode 1 was honestly a pretty slow one. There were some cool scenes, but I think the relevant things were you start with a very relevant thing with that intro, which I think really kind of sets the vibe of the chapter and where we'll probably be working towards. And then the very end, we see or the very end of that chapter, like subchapter 1, we see the kind of tip that is kind of interesting because it's kind of. So part of the intro was Rena giving her thoughts on kind of fate. And honestly, in a way, they were kind of pessimistic. Um, like she believes that if you have bad fortune, you're just going to keep having bad fortune unless you really fight to break out of it, right? You're not just going to get lucky. Whereas we see in the middle, we see Rika's, or I'm pretty sure Rika's perspective on fate. And honestly, it was more, I don't even know if optimistic is the word, but it certainly wasn't like pessimistic. But it seemed a little more optimistic. To me at least, right? In that she's like, if you roll a 6 on a dice, there's nothing saying you won't roll another one, right? Which to me seems a little bit optimistic, but also if you take that to its natural conclusion, that also means if you roll a 1, there's nothing saying you can't roll a 1 either. So it also just kind of says it's random, but it's not pessimistic, so I guess that's better than Rena at least. So I wonder if maybe this is going to be part of the clash, that like some of the ideals on fate and fortune, right? But then also right at the end is something very important is the introduction. Introduction? That's a new word. That's a new one. The introduction of Rena Mamiya? I believe Mamiya is her last name. I might be wrong about that. I don't think the last name is super important right now, because chances are if I saw it, I'd remember which one it was. But the point is, it's Rena. And I checked one of the chapter 3 tips. And it is 100%, almost 100% Tepe's mistress. At the very least, she is the person who is dead in chapter 3. Which is interesting, because why is she showing up? Obviously, there's a lot of ties right now to chapter 3. But one thing I wanted to say is, I think I maybe hinted at this last episode, but I kind of thought about it a bit more at work today. I don't think there's anything saying that this has to be chapter 3 or chapter 1. Right? I was really convinced we were going to do the answer arcs for chapters 1, 2, and 3 will all happen. But if I believe there's weird time stuff going on with the game, there's no reason that we can't have both at once. None in one chapter. Things like that, especially because something else I was thinking about is it feels like there's been some kind of hints at bleed through between certain events between chapters, and so I don't know that could maybe be relevant. And so I'm starting to a little more consider the possibility that it's not any chapter. I think if it is a chapter, it is chapter 3. Because I don't know. It's not 100%. I'd have to look at the I'd have to kind of get a clue about what the date is in the game right now. I don't know if that's something that was mentioned and I just missed it. Like if that went right over my head. Because if I did that, I could kind of do a relative date compared to the chapter 3 to see if everything lines up. Because right now I'm like, do we know the baseball player whose name I already forgot again? How did I already forget his name again? Did we know him yet, right? Did we know Irie yet at this point, right? Like, if this is chapter 3 and for this to be chapter 3, it would have to be a very small window. Kaneda, that's his name, right? Anyway, point is, it'd be a very small window that this could be. So if we get any, clues as to the date, we could confirm or deny whether it makes sense that it could fit in that window. There's a lot of hints, I think, so far that this could be chapter 3, right? Those kind of talks about, Rena's talks about fate, right? Also, you've got things like, obviously, Rena showing up at all, Irie showing up at all, Kaneda showing up at all, really all screams chapter 3, right? But, again, that's only if it is a chapter. I think one of the other big reasons that I was starting to wonder if this even is a chapter is that intro. right at the beginning, it's like the very first lines, I mean even before they're in the junkyard, right, it's like the first time something happened I felt this way, the second time I felt this way, the third time, or like not the third, it may be the third, but eventually it jumps to the seventh, right? And look, I should maybe remember the exact feelings that were described there. I don't remember the order of them. But it was basically like trying to stop this event X amount of times, right? And it was more times than there have been curse killings, so it couldn't just mean that. So I wonder if this is going to actually involve like some weird time loop or like something similar, right? To explain what was meant by that. But anyways, that's a lot of yap for the intro of the second video in this chapter, when the first one didn't even provide that much story context, I don't think, for someone who has no clue what's going on, at least, you know? I'm not saying none of it is story relevant, just not a ton. That's a lot of yap for how little information I have to go off, so let's just go ahead and jump right back into things. Start with chapter 3, see if we can maybe get a little more information to base our ideas on where this chapter will go, where this chapter won't go, you know? Okay, that's actually something else I meant to mention that's kind of interesting. So are we... whose perspective are we following? The text is back to white and we're starting with Keiichi, right? So that makes me think we're going back to Keiichi's perspective, because it was like the text color changed when we were at Rena's perspective, right?
Keiichi-kun 頑張りすぎだったもんね。
Rena ate a massive amount of desserts too, but her stomach seemed to be just fine.
女の子には胃袋が4つくらいあるんじゃないか?
Okay, so we are following Keiichi.
デザート用に確実に一つは余計にあるに違いない。
まあ、レディーになんたる暴言ですの。そんなこと言う圭一さんにはこうでございますことよ。
Bam. Ow! Satoko had poked me very hard in my bloated stomach.
やめて! お腹は押さないで! 中身がはみ出る!
Satoko and Rika-chan grinned mischievously upon hearing that. A chill ran up my spine. Why were they smiling like that and walking towards me so gleefully?
やめろお前ら! 血とか涙とかはねえのかよ!
Not
the Keiichi yak route.
千載一遇のチャンスを見逃す私と思いましてみー。圭一の膨らんだポンポンが大変なのですよ。
You hate to see it.
圭一くんのぽよんぽよんのポンポン、かいいよ。
Not the big wiggly tummy.
やめろお前ら!
Red's gonna yak for real. Rena joined Satoko and Rika-chan in torturing me. We were still making a lot of noise outside the restaurant. I desperately blocked my stomach from their attacks, but someone else hit me from behind.
誰だ?
ハロローン。ケイちゃんとその愉快な仲間の皆さん、こんにちはです。
Hello. You're not a murderous psychopath right now, are you? Surely not.
お、しーちゃんだ。こんにちは。あれれ、今日はお店にいなかったよね。私、今日は夜のシフトなんです。さっき来て着替えたばかりですよ。
それはそうと、お前よくその格好で店の外に出られるな。
大したことないですよ。あられもない姿で村中を練り歩いた誰かさんよりは恥ずかしくないです。
Damn it. I was just getting over it. She just reminded me that I'll never be able to get married.
それはそうと、今日は皆さんだいぶ大暴れしたらしいですね。
Yeah, that's putting it lightly from what I've heard. Who won the competition? That's the question.
まあね、いつもの部活になっちゃった以上ね。店内とんでもないことになってましたからね。お姉も責任を感じたようで、みんなに混じって掃除をやってます。やっぱり私たちも掃除に加わった方が良かったんじゃありませんの？ああ、それはお気遣い無用です。 さすがにお客様に掃除はさせられませんから。
そもそも一番散らかしたのはミー本人だと思いますです。
What did she do? Yeah, that's right. Everybody nodded in agreement.
それでお姉から伝言です。皆さんは先に帰っててくれていいそうです。い
いよ、待ってるよ。ねえみんな。
Rena asked for our agreement. Of course, we decided to wait without hesitation. Satoko, Rika-chan, and I all nodded along.
手伝えないならせめて終わるのを待ってるよ。帰っていいからって言って先に帰るとあいつ寂しがると思うからな。
ほー、ケイちゃんも日進月歩、少しは成長するんですね。
You grew up. It's kind of funny. How long have they known each other at this point? Like, in this route? It can't have been long. It can't have been very long at all. Again, if this is in that pocket between the baseball game and when Tepe shows up, like that few-day pocket, like, what, 4 days, I think? This would technically make sense. I don't know, everything being so compressed like that feels a little crazy to me, but I don't know, small town vibes, maybe. You know? I don't know, actually, especially now that I think about it, I don't know. No, it's still possible. It's still possible. If it runs a few more days, I'm gonna be like, hold on, that doesn't work, right? In which case, I really do need to consider that it's not any route in particular.
まあね。
Bro, considering people's feelings now.
レナたちがちゃんと教育してるからね。ねえ。ですわよ。ニパー。
なんだよ。こういう時だけ女どもは結束しやがって。
I hate girls. They get along so easily just because they're girls. In the end, we ended up making a lot more noise, even dragging Shion into the mess this time.
シオン、あんたいつまでサボってんの？雑巾どこやったの？ありゃいけね。じゃあ私はもう戻りますね。
みーちゃん、お掃除まだまだかかりそう？
何みんな。
We waiting.
おじさんを待っててくれてるわけ？
She's happy. She happy.
余計な気使わなくていいって。
She said, don't worry about me, but her body language says, thank you for worrying about me.
まったくもう。
Mio looked happy to see us waiting for her, but she always says the opposite of what she thinks. I wonder when she'll grow up to be able to just honestly say thank you.
バカ、仲間だろ？終わるまで待っててやるよ。
レナたちも一緒にお手伝いできればいいのにね。ごめんね。
だからいいって。今日ね、シオンの仕事終わるの待ってから久しぶりに沖宮の家に帰ることにしたの。だから本当に大丈夫。気持ちだけでも感謝するよ。
あら、本当にいいんですの？
We're giving you one last chance to take it back.
なんだか悪いですわね。なんか悪い気がするかな。
人は大勢いるから大丈夫だよ。風が冷たくなる前にみんなひなみ沢に戻りな。
わかりましたのです。みー、お掃除、ファイト、おーです。
We're bringing back all the classics this chapter. I feel like we barely saw any of this in chapter 5 and pretty much none of it in 4.
お、ありがとね。じゃあケイちゃん、お嬢様方のエスコートをよろしく。途中で死角に襲われないようにしっかり護衛するんだよ。
Will do. Looking around, I didn't see any ladies who needed an escort. I felt more like I was the one who needed protection. Anyway, we said our goodbyes, making it easier for us to end the day and go home.
じゃあね、みーちゃん。また明日ね。
おう、また明日ね。
よっしゃ、行こうか。
We waved at Mion until she went back inside the restaurant, and after that, we all got on our bicycles and left Okinomiya. So that's interesting, showing Keiichi being a little more considerate than he has been in other routes. This is the most random thought I think I have ever had. So random. But a potential for, like, what is going on? Maybe. A potential explanation. Like, there's an anime that I really like. I actually, believe it or not, this is a comedy anime. And one of the core plot points right at the end is that basically the world is looping, right? Like time is looping, and no one even realizes it, right? And it's not that the same events keep happening, it's that time is going on, right, still. And there's a small part of me that wonders if that's somehow possible. I don't really think that makes a ton of sense, because I don't know, how would people not be aging? How would like things like that? But I was almost wondering if it's like, I don't know, what if there was some bleed through from chapter 2 and 3, and that's why Keiichi's more considerate now, right? And so maybe this is just like further down along the line. I don't know, I guess it doesn't really change the idea though of like time loops. It was just kind of an interesting mechanism that I thought about, right? Like, the time never stops. It's just like people's perception of time is just wrong, you know? Kind of an interesting way for me to think about it. Because that's still one thing I really want to consider is what is the mechanisms for potential time shenanigans here, and how are they going to connect things? Because I really am so very confident that they will connect things, right? I have no doubt in my mind about this. I don't know, even within chapters, right? I think I mentioned this. There are points where they're like, Keiichi references like, oh my goodness, like he references like swallowing a thumbtack, right, at some point, or something about a tack, right? In chapter 2, right? In chapter 3, there was some reference to chapter 2 that I don't remember, to be honest. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it felt like, why is that even in your head, right? Like, why is that a thing that you're thinking about? I don't know. I'd have to check my notes for this. I'm not going to do that right now. But I definitely feel like that's a thing that's going on, and I wonder if that's why Keiichi's a little more considerate. You know, for example, I wonder if some other characters know that this is going on, and that's why they're like, wow, Keiichi's like you guys taught him well, right? Like, I don't know. That's probably a stretch, but I'd rather vocalize my stretches that are wrong than to not vocalize them and for them to be right, and me be like, dang it, why didn't I say something? You know? So, on the way home, we talked about how exciting it had been today, and it looked like everyone was still fired up. We had the horrifying punishment at the competitive eating contest, which turned into an unprecedented battle involving all the customers in the restaurant, and after that, everything got crazy and messy. At first, the waitresses didn't know what to do, but after a while, they ended up joining in. We had a blast. Jesus. Oh, man. It got crazy in there.
その時の富田さんと岡村さんたらもうおかしくてたまりませんでしたわ。結局亀田も入江もかわいそうだったのです。
いやいや、しかし俺の演説もなかなかだったろ。あの時は店全体が俺の味方だったよな。
That's a classic. The speech to do something big.
圭一は生まれる時代と国が違ったらひょっとするととんでもない人になってたかもなのです。
Dude, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If he could stop dying at the end of every route, hell, he might be a important person in this era the way he can speak.
こんな口先男がですの？どこの国に生まれてもろくな人間にはならないと思いますでございますわね。あと100年も早く生まれていたらお札になっていたかもですよ。圭一さんのお札なんてなんだか貧しいですわね。きっと200円札とか300円札とかそのぐらいの数でしたよ。
Not saying you'd be worth the trash bills. Sataka and Rika-chan kept up their continuous chatter. I was a bit tired after the day's events, so I just listened quietly. I noticed the wind was getting colder. Our shadows were getting longer as well. Sataka and Rika-chan still had a lot of energy left, but what about Rena? She'd been very quiet. Maybe she also had a stomachache from eating too much. I looked at Rena to see. However, I was wrong. Rena was... I didn't really know how to describe it. She looked very satisfied, just kind of just basking in the happiness. She looked like she really did have that much fun. She looked like she was as happy as she could ever be. I could tell all that without her saying a word. When I looked at her, it made me realize that the word fun isn't enough to describe what we did today.
今日一日本当に楽しかったな。
圭一くんは？
俺も最高に楽しかったよ。今日みたいなことが明日や明後日もあればいいのになってくらいにさ。
それはレナも同じかな。今日のお店の中での時間だけが永遠だったらいいなって思った。
Now that I think about it, given the kind of, like, the themes that it kind of looks like we might push into this chapter, right? If we're talking about, like, things going poorly and the good days ending, it actually makes sense to me that they started with kind of fluff like this. I didn't really think about it too hard. I'm like, what the? That's a lot of fluff, right? But if kind of the point is that these times get taken away and you don't even realize it, like, until afterwards. It kind of like Rena's speech of, like, you don't realize happiness until, you know, you're kind of miserable, right? And you're holding on to any glimpse of happiness, right? I feel like that's probably the point, now that I think about it.
おお、詩的なことを言うな。
ケイチ君は思わなかった？
Rena didn't notice that I made fun of her. I might have been a little tactless. Suddenly I regretted having said it.
いや、俺も同感だよ。
でもね、ケイチ君、別に今日だけが最高に幸せってわけじゃないんだよ。
A cool wind blew through her hair. She smiled at me, and for some reason, she looked very mature. Her appearance made my heart skip a beat.
私たちのひなみ沢での日々は、どの一日だってかけがえのない大切で素敵な幸せな一日なんだよ。たとえ部活がお流れになっちゃって退屈な一日だったとしてもね。
レナは大人な考え方ができるんだな。
She kind of does. Which is interesting. I don't think there's anything really that weird of it, although, I don't know, for some reason I immediately think of, like, for example, Rika, who is, like, normally not that mature, but there is that very mature side of her, right? Because of time loops. I don't know. I think I'm harping too much on time loops right now. I'm just gonna keep moving.
そんなことないよ。
Like, it's not impossible that Rena experiences them as well, but I don't know.
本当はまだまだはしゃぎ足りない。興奮がまだ冷めないだけなのかもね。
Rena laughed, and that made me laugh too. Satoko thought that we were laughing because we said bad things about her, and she started bugging me about it. Once again, we made a lot of noise like we always do.
では、僕とサトコはここでお別れなのです。リカ、もう少しご一緒してタバコ屋さんで曲がってもいいではありませんの？豆電球が切れたのを忘れましたですか？豆電球がないと寝るときに真っ暗になってしまいますですよ。
Not the nightlight, bro.
それは困りますわね。あ、牧野さんの雑貨屋さん？ならここでお別れだね。これ以上行っちゃうとどんどん遠回りになっちゃうからね。
That wasn't the name, right? It was definitely not Makino, right? I really don't think it was. Makino-san's general store? Oh, right, that's where it is. If they wanted to make a stop at the store before going back to the shrine, turning here would be the quickest way.
そっか。じゃあな、リカちゃんにサトコ。また明日な。
また明日なのです。それではですわ。ケイチさんにレナさん。じゃあね、二人とも。
Right, Makino-san. I'm pretty sure that's just kind of a random name.
バイバイ。
Maybe one that I should remember. It might be maybe that was like one of the Onikifuchi guardian families. I don't know. Rika-chan and Satoko waved at us many times, then took the narrow path through the field. Once the noisy girls were gone, it went especially quiet all of a sudden. It even made me feel as if the sun had set in an instant. I could see my house by now, which everybody called the Maibara mansion. I didn't notice it earlier because of how fired up we all were, but my stomach was about to burst. What do you mean you didn't notice? I mean, okay, I guess he didn't mean at the store itself, right? Or like at Angel Moore. The growling in my gut felt like thunder. My body must have been paying the price for me acting like an idiot earlier. There was no way I was eating dinner that night. I need to tell my mom before she started cooking. Bro, you're probably too late. But before anything, I had to get to the bathroom. Ugh. My stomach was churning. Oh boy, it really didn't sound good. We got to the place where I'd always meet Rena in the morning and say goodbye in the evening.
今日はすっげえ楽しかったな。
しかった。あれ、ケイチくん具合悪いの
Bro's stomach is rumbling.
すまん、お腹を壊したかもしれない。おとなしく休むことにするよ。
ケイチくんもまだまだお腹の鍛え方が足りないかな
Bro gotta lock in.
レナだって俺と同じくらい食べてるはずなんだぞ。一体その細っこい体のどこにあれが収まるってんだ？
それは女の子の秘密ってことで。
Built differently, that's how. Rena giggled and tried to avoid giving me an answer. She'd probably hit me if I pressed her about it. If she punched me in the stomach, I'd throw up for sure. So I decided not to go any further.
じゃあな、レナ。また明日な。
また明日ね。
俺さ、前は都会に住んでたわけだけどさ、こんなにも一日一日を楽しいと思って過ごしたことはなかった。俺、ひなみ沢に引っ越してきてさ、きっと幸せなんだって思う。
レナも同じだよ。
Well, buddy, do I have bad news for you regarding this coming week, I'd assume.
ほら、私も1年前にひなみ沢に引っ越してきたわけだけど、こんなに楽しい幸せな日々を送れるのが信じられないもの。
そっか、なら明日も絶対に楽しいな。
そうだよ、昨日も今日も楽しかったんだもん。きっと明日だって楽しいよ。
The thing is, I don't think Rena really believes that,
こ
but
んなにも毎日が楽しいと、なんだかある日突然転びそうで怖いよな。
when I say I don't think Rena believes that, I don't mean specifically tomorrow, but I think she definitely believes there will come a tomorrow where things will no longer be the same.
転ぶときはどんなに注意してても転ぶよ。
Yeah?
だからいつ転んでもいいように思いっきり今を楽しむのが正解だと思うな。
そうだな、今を精一杯楽しむのが正解だな。
じゃあね、ケイチくん、おばさまとおじさまにもよろしくね。さて、レナはまだまだ遊び足りないから、
How? I know if I was in their shoes right now, I would be cooked, bro.
また宝の山に宝探しに行こうかな。
I'd be like Keiichi here.
まだ遊び足りないってのか？つくづくタフなやつだな。負けたぜ。
どう？よかったらケイチくんも一緒に来ない？
No. That brother needs to hit the bathroom.
新しい山があってね、まだ全然発掘してないの。何かとっても可愛いのが見つかるかも。
悪いけど俺はパスするよ。それになんだか雲が重たくなってきたみたいだしな。
Storm is brewing. That's interesting. Probably nothing super relevant, but...
レナも今日はおとなしく帰宅した方がいいんじゃないか？
ほう、こういう素敵な気分の日にはね、きっと可愛いのが見つかるんだよ。だからちょっとでも行ってみるね。
I feel like she's gonna find something disturbing. I still can't help but feel like that's where the arm is gonna be. You know, the missing arm from the first murder. I felt sick enough that I didn't feel like going with her. If I felt better, I would have gone treasure hunting with her for sure. She didn't want to go home yet because she didn't want the fun day to end. It's exactly how I felt too.
わかったよ。じゃあな。可愛いのがあったらぜひ見せてくれよな。
じゃあね、バイバイ。
Okay, so we're switching perspectives. That's kind of interesting. So we're gonna get to see Rena at the junkyard, I assume. That's interesting. You know, it's kind of random, but something that I was thinking about. There was a point where I was wondering if the date of the storm was, like, the date of a storm was somehow relevant. Because if you look at the days, there's like one major storm in chapter 1 and 3. And both of those days are extremely relevant days. They're not the same date. So I was wondering if somehow the storm was like a relative point where something really crazy kind of happens, right? Because in the first chapter, that's the day of like the scene where Rena tries to go talk to Keiichi when his parents aren't home, and he like bashes her fingers into the door, right? And like that day. In chapter 3, it was the day of Watanagashi. I don't think there was one in chapter 2, and I don't recall one in chapter 5 that could take its place, but I would maybe need to look. I don't recall a storm like that, so that's kind of why I got rid of the theory. But I was just kind of wondering if maybe certain things happened relative to the date of that storm. And it was just a theory that kind of popped up into my head with another storm kind of brewing right now, you know? Not a theory that I'm super seriously considering, but kind of a fun one I wanted to mention before we really got going. Keiji-kun waved over and over as if he didn't want to say goodbye yet, but after a while he was gone. Well, I had to go too, because I was going to go treasure hunting. I love cute things. I had such a wonderful day today that I'm sure I'm going to get lucky at treasure hunting. Why did the music stop? I definitely will find some wonderful treasures. I don't like the fact that the music stopped. I pedaled my bicycle with determination, like I'm getting into like an uneasy feeling. My house was nearby, but I took another street that led to the damn construction site. It might have been okay to go home just then, but I hesitated to go since I didn't want to be seen. I had so much fun today, and I wanted to continue feeling happy as long as I could. It was already getting late, but I felt like it was getting darker faster than usual. Kind of interesting that she just really doesn't want to go home. Right now, I'm going to assume that's not like she has a terrible home life thing. And rather, it's like I just want to go to the, to the construction site, and if I go home and they're like, you're home, she might not be able to leave again, But I almost wonder, like, what is her home life really like? She can tell us that it's good, but I don't know. Not easy to believe everything someone says. It was already getting late, but I felt like it was getting dark faster than usual. Just like Keiichi-kun said, the clouds in the sky were growing darker. It might start raining hard.
でも別にだからって家に帰れるわけじゃないんだし。
Stop it, Rena. It's so much fun today. You have to stay happy as long as you can. I'm happy. I enjoy every day. Rena, say it. Say the magical words. Don't be embarrassed. You're not dumb or anything. I might be able to enjoy every day even more if I were dumb. If so, dumb is what I'd want to be.
かいのあるかなお持ち帰り。
Does she actually have a poor home life? I don't know, like, the fact that the thought of having to go home already is, like, that negative to her, it doesn't it could just mean she really wants to prolong the happy moments, but it could also indicate that there will be some very not happy moments if she goes home. I don't know, maybe harping on that a little too much, just, like you said, something I'm thinking about. There, I said it. I'm sure I can find something cute. As long as I believe it's cute, anything can be that way. I should fill my heart with happy memories of today and yesterday. I should look forward to the happiness I'm going to receive tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, too. I reached the damn construction site. A mountain of trash loomed before me. I parked my bicycle and walked down the mountain of trash and scrap. This place is my castle. It would be incredible if anyone else came to this mountain of trash. I've come here many times, and I usually stay for a long while, but I've never seen anybody walk by. This place is the village's blind spot. I heard that many people came here all the time during the dam wars, but it was abandoned after that. The villagers no longer needed to come here, and some people even forgot about it entirely. It seems like they dump trash here at midnight, but I've never seen a truck actually dumping trash, at least. If they dumped new trash more often, it'd give me more time to kill. But it looks like it's not going to happen for a while. I walked down the slope of the trash pile, all the way down to the bottom, and headed behind another pile. Nobody ever comes here. I've come here many times, and I usually stay for a long while, but nobody's ever come to mess up this place. Not even the other kids from my school come here. They all believe that the arm of the manager of the construction site is buried somewhere in the trash piles, and they also believe the whole place is haunted. Oh, okay, well. Seems like that's not exactly some crazy belief on my part. It seems like that's actually the common belief, that the arm is there. They told me that a ghost with the one arm still wanders around here, looking for his missing limb. Sadly, I haven't seen the ghost either. I'm not scared. In fact, I'd rather like to meet him. I wouldn't mind helping him find his arm. If he's feeling lonely, I'd want him to be my conversation partner. There's a station wagon buried in the trash pile. It doesn't have tires, but other than that, it still looks like a station wagon. This station wagon is my secret hideout. Unfortunately, the sliding door and rear doors don't open, so whenever I want to get in, I have to enter the car from the passenger seat and crawl into the back from there. Of course, I take off my shoes at the passenger seat. When you look at it from the outside, it's just a dirty, abandoned car. But on the inside, it's nice and clean, because I had swept it out and decorated a little. That took me a long time. The back seats are lying flat because I wanted to have as much space as possible. I found a mattress in the trash pile and put it into that space instead. It was a bit dirty, so I brought a bedsheet from home and covered the mattress with it. I put my favorite cushions on top, and with that, it turned into a perfect bed. I'll put cushions and stuffed animals everywhere. It's not all. Look at this. I have a bunch of sweets here, too. I have a bag of fruit candy in 4 different colors, and some cookies. But they're going bad. I'll have to throw them away. My bear-shaped water bottle was empty. When I come here to spend time on Sundays, I usually bring this water bottle with some sweetened tea in it. I have a box of tissues, a flashlight, extra batteries, and other daily necessities in here. I also have a few books to read in order to kill some time while I'm at it. I really turned this place into a second home. And I have this. What do you think this is? Look. Ta-da! My hideout is suddenly lit up thanks to the table lamp. There's an electric outlet on the side of an old nearby construction office. I thought they'd have cut the power years ago, but to my surprise, I was wrong. Electricity is still being supplied to the outlet. When I found tons of extension cords, I came up with the idea to connect them all and make the electricity come all the way to my hideout. Now I can spend time here comfortably with some sweets, books, and lights. If I wanted to, I might be able to spend a night here. But I may catch a cold since it gets very cold at night. See? This is a very nice hideout, isn't it? At first, I thought somebody would find it and mess with it, but that hasn't happened so far. It's because nobody comes here, and everybody forgot about this place. That's how this place became my perfect secret hideout. Fortunately, I ate so much today that I'm still full. I can tell them that I was playing with my friends at her house and ate dinner there. I'm gonna stay here for a while and relax. I'm going to treat myself. I loved the water gun battle yesterday. My heart had been pounding when I fought one-on-one with Keiichi-kun. I also had great fun at Angel Mort today. I'd never experienced such a crazy game with so many people in my life. I was still feeling the after effects, and I was sure I'd have a dream about it tonight. That was why. I wanted to bask in these happy feelings. That's why I'm going to treat myself in here. I should take off my shoes and stretch my toes. I should cherish the time when I can be myself. Once I took off my shoes, I felt so relaxed that I didn't want to put them on again. I played all day today, and I was very tired. The treasure hunt could wait. As it got darker, the light of the table lamp became encouraging. It really was getting dark faster than usual. All of a sudden, I heard the sound of raindrops hitting the roof of the car. Pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. The interval between drops got shorter and shorter. When it became a continuous sound, I began to hear thunder. Even though it was raining heavily, it remained very quiet inside the car, making me feel like I was in a different world. It's my castle, after all. I felt a bit cold, so I unfolded my big blanket and hid under it. I'm here alone, under the warm blanket that has my scent. Even though nobody knew where I was at the moment, and I feel like I was left alone in the heavy rain, I still feel secure and free from anxiety for some reason. Just feel safe here. I felt like this heavy rain was keeping my enemies away from my castle. I liked it that way. This place is full of small happiness. It's full of my favorite things. That's why I'm happy whenever I'm here. When I put another blanket over me, I felt as warm as if I were in bed. I listened to the soothing sounds of raindrops hitting the scrap iron in the trash heaps, and it made me feel very sleepy. This is a castle of trash. This trash came here because nobody wanted it. This is where it lives. This is a country where unwanted refuse lives together. I felt like I fit in here, but at the same time, I knew it was just a temporary place for me, as there's somewhere I had to go back to. Well, that's a negative description of herself. Feels like this is a place where trash comes because nobody wants it, where unwanted refuse lives together. And she said she feels she fits in here, so it might say a lot about how she really feels, right? I don't know, maybe she feels like she doesn't really fit in. I don't know. Like, maybe deep down she feels that way. Interesting, given how much, like, I don't know. Anyone can feel that way, but given how, like, all the positive feelings that they have, right? Like, it feels like they're a very, like, connected group, and it doesn't seem like she completely agrees. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't, she's not referring to the group or whatever, but I don't know what else she would mean. Let's just keep going. No, I shouldn't think about things like that, and where is it that she has somewhere to go back to? Whenever I realize that I don't belong here, I remember I'm in the middle of a very dirty pile of trash. I should just doze for a little bit longer. Thinking is poisonous. I wanted to keep myself out of that poison, so that the kind Rena within me could stay pure. A little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. And I closed my eyes. So it's kind of interesting seeing some of her inner monologue. Seems like deep down she's not truly, like, the Rena that we know isn't how she always feels, right? Dream time? My mother was a very busy woman. The harder she worked, the more her work was valued, and she kept getting promoted. She sought to go higher and higher. She was always shining, and she was my hero. My mother started her career as a fashion designer at a small clothing factory in Okinomiya. My father was a designer too. They met through their jobs and soon got married. They lived in a small apartment in Okinomiya, but they moved to my grandma's house, our current house, in Hinamizawa when she got pregnant with me. We lived there until right before I went to elementary school. Now that I think about it, that was the happiest time of my life. I felt happy every day and believed without a doubt that tomorrow would be the same. I was so happy that I took it for granted and didn't even feel the happiness. I really did feel happy every day. I was small at that time and didn't really understand what was going on, but it seemed like the company my parents were working for was having financial difficulties. So my mother and a few other young designers started talking about leaving the company and going independent. After many things happened and the situation grew complicated, they got an offer to work at a big design firm in Ibaraki, and they took the offer. At that time, I heard my mother saying many difficult words like limited partnership and business alliance, but in short, what she wanted to do was move to Ibaraki. My mother and her peers were hired because their talent and experience made them immediate assets at the new company. However, my father wasn't one of them. Unfortunately, my father wasn't as talented as my mother was. So, moving to Ibaraki meant that my father had to give up being a fashion designer. My mother's new company had high expectations of her talent and promised her a responsible project. She didn't want to waste her growing talent and passion by living in a rural town like Hinamizawa. So my mother convinced my father to quit his job and move to Ibaraki to support her and to help her build her career. Back then, moving meant that I had to say goodbye to my close friends. I didn't want to move, and I kept crying about it. After we moved to Ibaraki, my mother was a big success. Not only did she have great leadership skills, she was full of energy. I believe she made the best use of her talents to succeed. She came home late every night and barely had any days off. When she had a big project, she often stayed entire nights at her office. But when she came home, she always looked fulfilled and wore a happy smile that she had never worn when she was in Hinamizawa. She was shining, and I remember I always wanted to shine like her when I grew up. On the other hand, my father wasn't doing so well. He couldn't find a job as a fashion designer, so he took a clerical job at a small company, but he kept changing positions. He couldn't use the experience that he had cultivated, and it was very hard for him. But he was very understanding. He started to take care of things around the house for my mother, who got busier and busier, having one project after another. He cleaned the house, did the laundry, and came to my school events. However, he couldn't cook. He did cook rice, but always bought side dishes from the grocery store. We ate dinner without my mother more and more often. I guess she's busy again. Every time I said that, he always told me, "Your mother is working very hard, so let's support her, Rena." That was what he always told me. I decided to help my father with the cooking. I thought it was a good idea to learn how to cook since he wasn't good at it. Whenever my mother cooked, I helped her and tried to learn how to cook from her. She apologized for not having enough time to cook for us, but she was happy that I was learning. I think I wrote in my school yearbook that I wanted to be a clothing designer in the future, just like my mother. But apparently I lacked my mother's exceptional sense of style. She used to tell me, taste is something that you're born with, not something that you cultivate. I remember I was discouraged to be a designer because of that. That was why I decided to reach her by getting better at things she wasn't so good at, instead of trying to be like her. I wanted to be good not only at cooking, but also doing things around the house, just cleaning, doing the laundry, and grocery shopping. I remember my father was really happy that I did all that for him because he wasn't good at it at all. He couldn't find a job and spent a lot of time at home, so he seemed to enjoy spending time doing the housework with his daughter more than anything. I started to become better and better at filling in for my mother, and she started to get too busy to do any of the housework at all, and she moved on to a more responsible position at her job. She took me out to many places as if to compensate for leaving me alone all the time. She used to say, "Let's go eat something delicious without telling your father," and took me out to a restaurant. She took me to a high-class restaurant and amusement parks. Sometimes it was only me and my mother, sometimes it was with her friends from work. She took me to a beach barbecue one summer with those friends. I was introduced as her daughter, and every one of them pampered me. I still remember there was this one guy who particularly doted on me. He was a good-looking young man. I called him Uncle once, and he got mad at me, who was nicely tanned with dyed brown hair. This young man often came with us when we went out. When my mother took me somewhere, she usually made several phone calls for her work during the day, and sometimes she took me out to a place where she could also do her work at the same time. Can't even fully make time. Even when she makes time, she's not making time. So I didn't feel awkward when people from her work came with us, but I always preferred to be alone with her, so I was happier when we could do that. One day she took me to a very high-end part of town. Of course, she always spoiled me whenever we went out. She bought me things and let me eat whatever I wanted, but she especially spoiled me on that day. She took me to many expensive-looking boutiques and accessory stores. She was about to buy me something, but I told her not to get it because it didn't look good on me. Without hesitation, she bought it anyway. I remember there were many zeros on the price tag. On that day, I realized my mother's design work had made her a very successful woman and she was earning a lot of money. We took a break at a ridiculously expensive-looking restaurant that probably charged 1,000 yen for a glass of orange juice. My mother clapped her hands and spoke to me with a smile on her face. She asked, "Rena, would you like to make your dream come true?" When I was in kindergarten, my teacher gave students a topic to draw a picture of. The topic was my dream, and I drew myself eating a mountain of fruit parfait all by myself. What my mother meant to say was that she was going to make that dream come true for me. It was a normal day. It wasn't my birthday or anything. But since my mother always spoiled me when we went out together, I didn't feel awkward about it at all, and I accepted her offer with a happy smile. There were 5 or 6 of fruit parfaits in front of me. I remember it looked exactly like the world I drew, and I felt like I was floating in that dream world. It was too much for us to finish, but we dug our spoons into it as if we were playing in the mud, and we really enjoyed eating it together. It was my first time to experience getting full by eating only fruit parfaits, and I remember I was very happy. I enjoyed tasting the happiness and chatting with my mother.
レイナちゃん、この間映画とお食事に行った時、一緒だった人のことを覚えてる？
秋人おじさんだっけ？
Akihito.
お兄さんって呼ばないとぶたれる。
レイナちゃんは秋人さんのこと好き？
嫌い。いっつもレイナのことからかうもん。
それは大好きだからちょっかいを出してるのよ。バーベキューの時はとっても仲良くしてたじゃない。
たまには仲良しかな？
The voice is kind of adorable. My mother laughed. I didn't know why she brought up the subject, but I didn't really pay attention to it because I was too young. Now that I think about it, she was breaking the news. I just didn't notice it.
ねえ、レイナちゃんはお母さんとお父さんとどっちが好き？
Ooh. What a question!
お母さん。
It wasn't that I hated my father or anything, but I thought giving her that answer was appropriate after she spoiled me so much. I mean, I can probably see where this is going. We have a little bit of an affair, I'm guessing. Or maybe not necessarily an affair. I don't know, maybe there's not an affair, maybe it's just like, we're done.
もしもお母さんとお父さんが別々のお家に住むことになったら、レイナはどっちのお家に住みたい？
Yeah.
お母さんね、お父さんと別れて秋人おじさんと結婚しようと思うの。
What do you mean now that I think about it, she was breaking the news? I understand you were young, and so you might not have realized it. I don't know. It just makes it sound like, huh, I guess maybe that was her first hint. No, she literally told you. I understand when you're young, that thing kind of goes over your head, but like, that's just, sorry. I'm sorry. This is a serious situation. It was just a little crazy to me. Right? I didn't think they'd say it directly. I thought it'd maybe be kind of like, oh, they gave this little hint, like, about Akihito, right? Like, and then we're eventually going to get they ended up married, right? But, like, at that time, my mother was a very successful woman. I didn't know this at the time, but she was drafted by a headhunter to work at a bigger company, where she was promoted to a higher and more responsible position, one where she could bring out the most of her talent. Of course, the position wasn't the only thing she gained. Compared to my father's low salary, my mother was earning enough money to support a family of 3 and still have some left over. I'd kind of realized it from the way she spent money. The greater position she achieved, the more she spent time with people at her level. All of them were bright and talented. Compared to them, my father might have looked unattractive to her. I liked Uncle Akihito, but I liked him as one of my mother's friends, not in the same way I liked my father. I liked my father and mother equally, so it was very shocking to me that my mother wanted to divorce him. I felt as if the ground below me was beginning to crack. That expression, I realized, actually fit my situation very well. I had to choose which side of the cracked ground I wanted to stand on. Yeah, I mean, that's hard for a young kid, you know? Like, how are you actually asked to do that? My mother told me to live with her at her new house. Her new house meant that the house Uncle Akihito lived in. I thought a house was a sanctuary for a family. I believed that a house was a holy place where strangers couldn't easily enter. That was why I couldn't believe her. How could she let a stranger invade such a holy place so easily? Well, it sounds like it's the other way around, actually, but, you know. Why do you hate my father? My mother looked down and didn't answer. I asked her another question. Why can't you stay with my father? I think that was the hardest and the most heartbreaking of all my questions for my mother to answer. In short, my mother had cheated on him. Okay, yeah, so we do have a little bit of an affair. She loved another man who was more attractive than my father. It was just that and nothing more. I knew more than anybody that it wasn't my father's fault. First of all, he decided to move from Hinamizawa to support my mother as much as he could. Bro, he is getting dealt a rough hand. For him, nothing good had come from that. Actually, I think he had a very tough time since we moved to Ibaraki. But he volunteered to be her support and tried very hard to do that. I thought my mother appreciated his support. So, I took a decision as a betrayal. I told her that I disagreed with everything, including their divorce. I said it very loudly and made everybody in the store jump. Ugh, yikes, okay. Maybe a public place was not the place for this, in retrospect. Sure, continue your relationship with Uncle Akihito, but don't divorce my father. I feel bad for him. I feel terrible for him. He's been doing nothing but support you patiently this whole time. How could you do such a cruel thing to him? I screamed as loud as I could. Oh man, she is losing it. Then my mother answered. It's too late. Why? You haven't talked with my father about this, have you? It's not too late.
お母さんね、
Don't say it.
妊娠してるの。
Oh my god. Jeez. Yeah, can't exactly hide that, huh? that's I mean, that's hard. I can imagine that has a significant impact on her. Dang. I mean, there's a Rena half-sibling running around? I doubt it's anyone we know. The ages don't really line up, I don't think, with anyone we might know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe one of the, like, the younger characters. But I kind of doubt it. Anyways, just keep moving. I don't know whether my mother actually told him about the divorce in person. A middle-aged woman who called herself a lawyer came to the house several times to talk to my father on my mother's behalf. She sometimes called him, too. My father begged the lawyer to let him speak directly to my mother many times, but it never happened. I could tell by the way they talked that he had no clue when my mother told him she wanted a divorce. The way that they talked, that he had no clue when my mother told him she wanted a divorce. Okay, like, he had no clue this was coming. Well, again, I'm not even sure if she told him in person. The lawyer told him not to meet my mother, not to call her at work, and many other things, too. To top it all off, she told him not to see my mother ever again. He wanted to talk to her. He called some of their mutual friends, but he only found out the name of the guy she was having an affair with and nothing more. He asked me, "Do you know the guy?" I told him I do. I also told him he was a funny guy and had given me candy many times. I'll never forget how he looked when I told him that. He hit me for the first time. Oh no. So she does have a terrible home life. Because the first time implies this is not exactly a one-time occurrence. He hit me for the first time. He hit me so hard that his handprint stayed on my cheek for a while. Then he fell on the floor and cried loudly. And then I started to cry too. I didn't cry because he hit me. Uncle Akihito was kind to me, so I liked him and talked to him out of courtesy. No, that wasn't it. Girls had to be kind to everybody. That's what I thought. But I was wrong. I learned in this world that there are people you should be nice to, and enemies you shouldn't be nice to. Maybe that explains her very strong belief in some of those Hinamizawa like myths, I'll call them. Lore. The enemies are the ones who would destroy my life with their very existence. Whether they mean to harm me or not doesn't matter. They're like weeds growing in a flower bed. Goodness. That's a strong way to put it. Dandelions are innocent, but they take all of the nutrition for the tulips from the soil. That's why we have to pull them out. The dandelions did nothing wrong, but they're the enemy. Enemies are bad people. That guy was a bad person. I shouldn't have accepted him. I should have rejected him with everything I had. By doing so, I might have been able to disrupt their relationship. By doing so, I might have been able to make my mother feel like their relationship was not going to work. If I tried to do so, my parents wouldn't have had to break up. That's the hardest thing for a kid to think. Like, to think they're the reason something happened. Like, something like this happened, specifically. Right, doesn't get, like, I don't know, as a kid, it can't really get much worse than that, you know? My father and I cried together, but we cried for different reasons. He must have cried because it happened so fast and didn't make any sense to him. I cried because I regretted that I let it happen when I had the chance to prevent it. My father stroked my cheek and opened his mouth to apologize, but he couldn't speak and just cried with me. I can say I understand why the father was upset there, but obviously, I feel like if you hit your child once, even while you're upset, there's always that chance that you're gonna repeat and make it a habit, you know? So, I don't know. I mean, I still feel bad for the guy in a way, but I'm like, ugh, yikes. Like, a little harder to have sympathy, you know? One day, the lawyer let me see my mother. My mother asked me to live with her at her house again. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept looking down and listened to her apologies. My father knew that I was going to see my mother on that day, so he handed me a letter and told me to give it to her. I don't know what he wrote in that letter, but for some reason I was able to imagine what kind of things he wrote when I felt it through the envelope. After all, the letter inside the envelope had a rough surface. He must have been crying while writing the letter, and his tears made the letter all wrinkled when it dried. My mother took the letter from me, told me that she'd read it later, and was about to put it in her bag. I stopped her and told her to read it there. I wanted to see how she was going to take the last words that my father had left to her. But my mother didn't read it. She told me that she wanted to read it alone later. She put it in her bag, but I feel like she never read it. At that time, I realized. No, it was more than that. I should say, I knew. Because it was so obvious. I knew that my mother was lying. She had no intention of reading my father's letter. She was going to throw it away after I was gone, but she lied just because she wanted to seem like a nice person in front of me. The slight curl on her eyebrows and lips told me that more clearly than anything else. At that moment, I finally knew something else. The guy she was having an affair with wasn't the only bad person. My mother was also a bad person. Since that moment, the existence of my mother disappeared from my world like dry ice evaporating. I didn't have to hesitate about whom to live with anymore.
あなたの家には行きません。私の家は竜宮の家です。もうあなたとも会いたくありません。二度と呼ばないでください。
Dang, those are some cutting words.
でもねレイナ、お父さんの方に残ったらこれからの生活。
At that moment, I hated my name for the first time in my life.
私のこと気安くレイナって呼ばないでください。失礼します。さようなら。
Those were my last words to my mother. No, to the woman who used to be my mother. After that, I spent many days without feeling anything. I don't know if the days were long or short. I didn't know which season I was living in. It was supposed to be nothing out of the ordinary, not having my mother around. But every time my father saw things that reminded him of her, like her toothbrush, her teacup, or her favorite books, he shed tears, which left me frustrated. That's why I decided to completely remove her belongings from the house. I roughly threw her things in a black trash bag. I started to do so frantically. Oh, you're getting beat for this, aren't you? By the time I knocked down her wardrobe, threw her music box hard on the floor, and broke her mirror, my mind was already not working properly. When I try to remember what happened after that, I feel disoriented. That's because the pills the doctor gave me back then made me feel disoriented and lethargic every time I took them. It seems that dullness hit me especially hard, since every time I try to remember that time, it makes me feel disoriented and lethargic, just like the pills made me feel. So this is interesting. She's starting to kind of lose it, right? Like lose her cool. You know, go a little cuckoo if you're catching my drift, right? But when she tries to remember the things that happen after that, she like feels disoriented, lethargic, even like, like even now trying to think about it. That's how the pills made her feel in that moment. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if this ties into her breakdown at the school. Like, I kind of wonder if that's what she's forgotten, right? Or can't really remember. I destroyed everything that smelled like my mother, but the thing I wanted to destroy the most might have been myself. Even after I threw all of her belongings away, I still couldn't stop feeling regret, and I decided to blame myself in the end. Maybe I was thinking that I wanted to do damage to her reputation and successful life by destroying her daughter, destroying myself. When I was about to reach that very last resolution, Oyashiro-sama came to me. Oyashiro-sama told me to go back to Hinamizawa. Yes, all of this was because of his curse. Oyashiro-sama brought a curse upon the Ryugu family because we broke his rule and abandoned Hinamizawa. After I figured that out, everything started to make sense to me. All the crazy things that happened after my mother was gone. Okay, so to me, this seems more like a child who has gone through a traumatic event and doesn't know how to explain this, right? And is finding a convenient explanation. Because she remembers the happy time she had in Hinamizawa. She remembers the mythos of what happens when you leave, right? And she's like, that must be it. And maybe that's why she wanted to go back so bad. Like, at least deep down in her heart, she wanted to go back so bad because she remembered those happy times. The curse of Oyashiro-sama did all of that to us. It was Oyashiro-sama's voice that was telling us to come back to Hinamizawa. That's right. We should have stayed in Hinamizawa. Everything went crazy because we moved. We had to go back to Hinamizawa. I started feeling disoriented again, and a dull pain ran through my head. It might be a scream from within me telling me not to push myself too hard to remember any further. The house where we used to live in Hinamizawa was still there. My grandma already passed away, and the house was the only property she left for us. I remembered that I used to live in Hinamizawa, but all I remembered was that it was a village that I used to live in until right before I went to elementary school. I remembered the atmosphere of the village too, but that was all I remembered. I forgot the streets and even the names of close friends I used to play with. The neighbors knew that the son of the deceased woman had come back divorced. Knew that the son of the deceased woman? Oh, her dad. But they didn't know us, and we didn't know them. So it was almost like we moved to a new place. However, as far as I was concerned, it still was my hometown that I had come back to. At first, everything was inconvenient compared to life in Ibaraki, and it was hard for both of us to adjust. But we renovated the old house, and it was only me and my father. Life here seemed to make my father forget his pain from the divorce. Michan was very kind to me and started to get used to my new life too. And I started to get used to my new life too. I did everything around the house, and we gradually went back to a time when we used to live happily. Anybody can live a happy life. People sometimes say that some people are born to be unhappy, but I believe that's just an excuse for people who don't even want to try. I won't give in to fate. I'll never give up trying to recapture the happy times that I lost. Yeah, I mean, this is about what I was expecting this chapter to be thematically. I'm going to become happy to the point where I don't even feel the happiness anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore. I'll never cry again. I used up all of my tears on that night my father hit me. The curse of Oyashiro-sama is over because we came back to Hinamizawa. Maybe your guys' is in your mind. Sorry. That's what she meant in the first place. So, I'm going to have a happy life from now on. All of a sudden, big raindrops hit the roof of the car and I recovered my senses. It was still raining hard. It had already gotten dark outside. Yeah, so actually still the main thing I'm wondering is, does she have a good home life? Like, is it just her father there? Does she have a good relationship with him? Because it sounded like things weren't that bad. She didn't mention, and now I go home every day and he beats me. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't, right? Like, kind of felt like she was avoiding going home, but maybe it's just because to her this is ultimately her safe space, rather than because that's an unsafe place, you know? It had already gotten dark outside. The shadows the table lamp created were very dark, and it looked as if there was nothing else around me. If I turned off this light, would everything in this world disappear? I turned off the light. Darkness swallowed me. But the cold air and the sound of rain didn't change a bit, and that made me realize I was still in this world. The curse of Oyashiro-sama. Did the curse of Oyashiro-sama do those crazy things to my family? Or did I convince myself it did as an excuse for myself because I didn't want to feel guilty about the divorce? Well, to be honest, I really don't think you have anything to feel guilty about in the first place. Like, that's not really something you can tell a kid. Like, hey, it wasn't actually your fault that your parents got divorced, right? That's... Good luck convincing a child of that within, 2 years, of their divorce, it seems, right? 2 to 3 years. Good luck. But I do believe, right now, that this was just an excuse she kind of used for herself, right? This kind of maybe make you wonder a little bit, why she started to hear all this, but if... My newer theory is that, it's kind of an emotional breakdown that causes this, and we never knew what could have caused Rena's emotional breakdown. But I think it's pretty obvious now, her family splitting and the divorce and her really feeling strongly that her mother was a bad person and, getting rid of all of her stuff, right? Well, I mean, I think getting rid of all the stuff was part of the breakdown, but this is what I would lean right now. Did I convince myself it did as an excuse for myself because I didn't want to feel guilty about the divorce? Sometimes I'm not sure. Since that time, Oyashiro-sama hasn't come to me. I sometimes feel like it was a delusion I created because I was mentally ill. But he did come at that time. I'm sure about that. Am I right, Oyashiro-sama? I was unhappy after I left Hinamizawa, but I came back and I'm happy now. But where am I supposed to go now that I'm unhappy in Hinamizawa? Where? Yeah, okay. I kind of suggested this earlier, that it seems like deep down she's not happy. And there's, the confirmation.
ダメだ、レナ。不幸になったとか考えちゃいけない。
If only it was that simple. Don't think you're unhappy.
私は幸せなんだ。幸せになるんだ。だから、絶対に幸せになれるんだ。
Okay, so there's a lot more going on with Rena than was easy to anticipate. Don't get me wrong, I obviously knew there was going to be more going on with Rena, but kind of seeing those layers kind of hits. Suddenly, I felt that if this darkness swallowed me, I'd never be able to be happy again. I found the switch of the table lamp and turned it back on. Why do I feel like there's going to be somebody here? When I looked at the clock, it was already past 11 p.m. I had to go home. I wouldn't have time to prepare my lunch for tomorrow. At least, I'd have to set the timer on the rice cooker. It didn't look like the rain was going to stop anytime soon. I looked out of the window to see the rain, but could only see my reflection. I talked to that reflection in the window. I'm so glad that my father's happy. He'd been acting like he was dead for a long time. The smile on his face is a good sign that he's regaining his former happy life. He became miserable because of me. That's why I don't mind doing things for him until he regains his smile and we become truly happy. When I stay here alone for a while, it gives him some time to be alone with her. Plus, I don't have to fake a smile. So, does he have someone new? But then, my reflection in the window tells me, Rena, you're such a good girl. You're kind to everybody and love them equally. You can make anybody like you. But, did you forget something? In this world, there are people you should be kind to, and enemies that you have to reject with all you've got. I thought you learned that lesson. No, don't listen to her. My reflection is always mean. She always says mean things and makes fun of my worries. But she always tells me things that I can't say myself. Let's go home, Rena. To your home. Forget about the mean Rena in the mirror. I was a bit hungry by then. After all the desserts I ate, I still got hungry. I didn't eat anything substantial. I almost forgot. Rena-san bought me a shortcake. I've never had a shortcake from Angel Mort, but I bet it'll taste good. I'd have to give my thanks to Rena-san the next time I see her. Rena-san speaks in a way that makes it very clear how she grew up, but I'm sure she's a good person. That's because she's so good to my father. I did everything I could to make my father smile, but I failed. On the other hand, Rena-san can put a big smile on his face so easily. Interesting. So, while Rena is not her mother, they kind of have that relationship, right? I don't want to say stepmother because that would imply, marriage, but this is interesting. Oh man, is Rena two-timing? Oh no. Oh. That could be bad for Rena's dad. Because it seems very likely that she's the one that was having the affair with Pepe, right? Like I said, at the very least, she's the one who dies, right? For trying to take money. But I'd have to read the tip again. It really seemed like they were implying that that is Tepe's mistress. And then that, like, I'm almost positive, right? Like, which is interesting because that would imply that, like, she's with two people. Unless Tepe is Rena's dad. That would be quite the twist. If I do say so myself. That would be quite the twist. But I did everything I could to make my father smile, but I failed. On the other hand, Rena-san can put a big smile on his face so easily. I have to thank Rena-san. I have to thank her for cheering up my father. But I don't know why. I just don't like her perfume. So she gets a bad vibe from her. Good call. Good call. Gotta trust your gut sometimes. Okay, we're going to go through the tips and we'll kind of talk about this chapter. This was a much more substantial chapter. I liked this one a lot. This was a good sub-chapter. But let's go ahead and go into these tips. My summer vacation picture diary. Today, I went to a swimming pool with my mom. Uncle Akihito came with us too. I don't like him because he's sometimes mean to me, but he's a very kind and funny old man. He told me to call him Daddy for that day because he was going to play with me at the pool like he was my daddy. My mom called him Daddy, so I did too. Ooh, yikes. Yikes. I hope your dad never read this. Uncle Akihito looked very happy and gave me a lot of money. Dude, could you imagine if you're I don't know if this is like a summer diary for like school, but could you imagine you're a teacher and you read this and you're like, she called him what? Like, your mom called him what? You called him what? Does your dad know? That's a crazy thought. Uncle Akihito looked very happy and gave me a lot of money. My mom looked very happy, and it made me happy too. I want to play with him again. I hope my dad can come with us next time. Never that. Ooh. Okay, when something like that happens, it's a little easier to understand why she blames herself. I'm not saying it's correct. I want to be clear about that. At the end of the day, it is not Rena's fault that her mother felt the need to cheat, right? That is never going to be Rena's fault. But in her mind, right, as a young child, I can see why she would look back at that and be like, oh my god, I was literally calling him Dad. Like, yeah, be like, I didn't see the signs. Like, I let them think this was going to be a happy family unit and maybe that they could keep going like this. Premonition of rainy days. This is a little interesting because I had that talk earlier about, like, what if there's something going on with rainy days specifically, right? So I kind of want to see what's up with this. I opened the window. I thought there was a comma there, so I kind of paused. I opened the window, placed my cushion nearby, and prepared to enjoy the weather. But she came over and disrupted my peaceful evening. She always ruins my time of solitude.
幸せそうね。そっか。今日はあんたの大好きな甘いものがたくさん食べられたものね。
This girl loves sweets more than anything. I like them too, but I can't eat like she does. It'd give me heartburn if I ate the amount she ate today. She seemed to be very happy, so I'll leave her alone for a while. I've been marking my favorite hot and salty food for the past few days, so she must be quite pleased today. I've been making. Marking? Bro, what? It was a very fun day for me, too. I just wanted to enjoy the memory of the excitement I felt today by sitting here quietly, enjoying the sunset. But when I looked up at the sky, I saw some thick clouds forming there. The wind was a bit cooler than usual. It might start raining soon.
大地震や大津波などの知らせとして浅瀬に普段は絶対に見かけることができない深海の魚が現れることがあるっていう話があるらしいわね。
We saw a very rare fish that dwells in deep water in the shallows today. Just as the ancient stories of sea monsters say, people hate deep-sea animals and tend to interpret them as omens of disaster. It didn't matter if they showed up alive or dead. I said something interesting just now. Even if they showed up alive or dead, it was an omen of a disaster. Oh, it might start raining soon.
うるさいな。言われなくても分かってる。洗濯物を取り入れるわよ。
I grabbed a basket and went outside to take the laundry in. The clouds were getting darker. I normally like rain, but I didn't think I'd enjoy it today. Well, that was interesting. We're going to need to click back into that. So, first of all, who is this from the perspective of? I mean, like, I feel like Satoko makes the most sense, right? Like, you know, I'm thinking, like, open the window, place the cushion nearby, prepare to enjoy the weather. I mean, depending on how far back we are, it could be Rika's mom, I guess. I feel like this might be Rika's mom rather than Satoko. I guess maybe it's not quite as important, but lots of your favorite sweets today. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a ton to indicate exactly who it was. I'm gonna guess it's from the perspective of Rika's mom. That, like, ruined my time of solitude definitely makes me think that. And also the fact that she's using this voice. Look, she could use this voice with Satoko. It's not impossible. It's not. We have no clue. We've never seen, like, what their home life is like, right? But if she used this voice with her mother, it might explain part of her disdain and be like there's something wrong with her. Like, but seeing this side of Rika, and it's kind of interesting. People say that when deep sea animals come up to the shallows, it's a sign of a big earthquake or a tsunami. I feel like, I mean, this is not meant to be taken literally. Something is telling me we're not gonna, like, play the next sub chapter and be like, oh my god, there's a deep sea creature on the beach, right? Like, I don't think that's what's gonna happen. So I assume this is, like, kind of metaphorical. So what exactly do they mean by a deep sea animal coming up to the shallows? It's a sign of a big earthquake or a tsunami, right? Which to me, it just means a sign of a disaster, right? What's the deep sea animals, right? I assume it's certain characters, like something like that. I don't know. Maybe this isn't meant to be taken, like, kind of literally, but I feel like this is meant to be taken, like, or, like, not, well, okay, it's obviously not meant to be taken literally, unless we're literally going to see a deep sea monster, right? You know, but, like, I assume it just means somebody who is normally, like, not there when they show up, or when a certain thing happens, it's a sign of a disaster to come. So what could that be? I mean, the closest comparison would be a character that doesn't really show up all that often. And when they show up, it's a sign of something bad that is sure to come. I don't know, characters that maybe come to mind, like Oishi Irie. Irie really doesn't show up very often, but didn't matter if they showed up alive or dead. Now, that is kind of interesting, right? Huh. What exactly could that mean? Like, who could this be referring to? I really feel like this is referring to somebody. This is a very interesting tip. I wish I had more ideas than I do right now. I mean, obviously, I also kind of think maybe like Takano, Shion, maybe even. When I think Alive or Dead, those are the two main characters I think of, right? Or I guess Tepe as well. Those are characters when I think Alive or Dead. Those are the characters who there was always that question, right? Interesting. I don't know, but I feel like the idea is there that there's a certain thing that when they show up, it's a sign that things are about to get really bad. Wait. Is this just from Rika's perspective? This is just Rika's perspective. Oh my god. It's so obvious now that I'm looking at it again. Yeah, I know. You don't have to tell me. I'll get the laundry. I grabbed a basket and went outside to take the laundry in. Okay. All that time, like, who is this? It's Rika. It's obviously Rika. Okay, that was stupid. So it seems like a lot of the tips this chapter are going to try to give us more insight into Rika, which is really interesting, actually. So now you got to maybe start to pay attention to Rika, see if there's anything that she views as like a warning sign, maybe, right, of a disaster to come. Interesting. Okay, so who is she talking to then? That's actually my question now. For now, I guess I'll assume, like, her mother? But... okay, I'm kind of sitting on this for a little too long. If nothing else is really coming to me, nothing else is really coming to me, that is what it is. But I think at the very least we need to keep in mind that there is a character that she's comfortable using that voice around, it seems, you know? Which is interesting. And like I said, that idea that there's something that's an omen of a disaster. And okay, they specifically are talking about, like, you know, when you see those deep sea creatures, dead or alive, it's a premonition. For some reason, there's a stupid part of me that's wondering if the rainy days themselves are the premonition that disaster is coming. Like a bigger disaster. Because like I said, I'd already wondered, like I noticed, like, usually like a few days before things go really crazy, not a specific amount of days before, like, you know, I try to get into that theory again, because that didn't work out so well last time, it looks like. But, you know, a little bit before things go truly crazy, there's been like a rainy day, but I don't think that really applies to Chapter 2 again, so I don't know. Maybe it is a person that would make the dead or alive line make more sense. That's a very interesting tip. I'm going to have to come back to this one. Definitely going to have to come back to this one. So let's talk about this chapter as a whole, subchapter, that is. I think this is a very interesting one. There's a lot more to unpack than probably the entire last episode. But I think the big thing was we start to see Rena's character a lot better, right? Where she seemed like this sweet, kind of bubbly girl, right? Maybe bubbly's not the exact right term, but you get what I mean. High energy, right? That seems to be who she is. She seems very happy, but really that's not true. Really, she's struggling because of the curse that she viewed as being put on the Ryugu family, with her mother cheating on her father and divorcing him, right? For someone else. She blames herself And obviously that is a hard thing for a kid to do, and to get over. And then really, I think the big thing too is that, one, like, there's a few big things actually. I think one of the things that I want to talk about right now is that this unhappiness seems to have, I don't want to say carried over, but it's not gone. Right? She moved back. She thought she'd be happy, like, if she moved back, and it wasn't that simple. Right? She's back. Her father seems to be enjoying things a bit more, going back to his old self, but she is unhappy deep down, and that's why she has her place of solitude. She has that, apparently, it seems like she knows she has some low-key evil side to her, right? Or, like, much more mean side to her, right? That side in the mirror that was telling her, look, you're nice to everyone, but you've said this before. Some people are enemies, like, and you can't be nice to them, right? They're weeds, like, it's not the dandelion's fault that it is a weed, but it's got to be pulled nonetheless, right? And so I'm starting to feel like she's going to take some drastic measures this chapter, right? Someone's about to get popped, if I had to guess, right? Well, okay, probably not popped. I don't think anyone in Higurashi, at least the main cast, is going to have access to a gun, but I don't know, maybe. But, you get my point. It feels like she's going to do something drastic. What if she's the one who kills Rena? That'd be kind of crazy, right? What if it was her the whole time? That'd be a little bananas. I don't know. We'll keep it in mind as a possibility, because she clearly already seems to not like Rena. She can't quite put her finger on it, though, like what she doesn't like. So obviously there's that, like, that's like how she's feeling in the current day. Like, just generally not very happy and trying to find her happiness. Which is already a big addition to her character, right? Is that she's the one who looks happy and tries and has fun with everyone, or so it seems, right? And it's not that you can't have fun when you're not happy, right? So I'm not saying it's not, like, when I say so it seems, that makes it sound like she's not having fun with them and she's completely lying. Look, maybe she is, right? But she, even in spite of this, she's not happy, is my actual guess, right? But another thing that is equally big, if not bigger, is the doctor had her taking these pills, right? And it made her mind foggy. And she felt foggy and disoriented, and she couldn't really remember what happened after she kind of went crazy and threw away and broke her mother's things. So to me, that kind of seems like a clear case of, like, the Hinamizawa craziness, and her starting to lose her cool. Because of some kind of an emotional break. And I think this really sells the theory that it's more an emotional break that causes things to really reach ahead, rather than, like, it being time-based, it being something someone can set off, right? Now, that makes it sound like there's no one doing anything, which is not what I think. I'll explain in just a second, but I think there's a very strong reason to believe that these emotional breakdowns are what's causing it. If you look at the timing of it, literally every time. In Chapter 1, Keiichi starts to really lose it when he really strongly is feeling paranoid around his own friends, and that, like, in specifically, the Moki, right? That's when he loses it, right? If he thinks his friends are trying to kill him, yeah, I don't blame him. Right? Like, but that's not the point. He had this kind of breakdown, right? In Chapter 2/5, you have Shion, and she really broke down, I think, when she started to break down the very first time. We have two examples from her, which really solidifies this. The first time she starts to break down, it was regarding Satoshi, right, and his disappearance, and she really, like, firmly believed in that moment that the Sonozakis did it. And this was in 1982, to be clear, before the fingernail, like Mion's fingernail reveal, right? And it's like she starts to choke Mion, right? Because she believes they did it, right? And I think Mion kind of snaps her out of it, like, look, like, whether you believe her or not, like, in the moment, she's like, look, we didn't do it, right? Like, I ripped my own fingernails out because I felt so bad. Like, I'm sorry you went through that. I swear, I thought he was going to be fine, right? Like, and that kind of quells it. But then if you look again, it's when she starts to feel jealousy that she kind of starts to lose her cool again in 1983. Jealousy of Mion having Keiichi, right? And then it starts to make her think a lot about Satoshi, and then she really loses it, I would say, when it, to me, it felt like she really lost her cool, right? Like, when used the stun gun, when she felt like she was about to be punished for her actions again. So a combination of already being a little crazy, and then combine that with suddenly now intense fear, right? And that desire for revenge, and it's like, yeah, emotional break, right? Chapter 3, you have Keiichi. I mean, do I really need to explain it, right? Everything that was going on with Satoko, and that also explains Satoko's, by the way. They very well might have gone nuts at the same time, to be honest, that same day, right? That's when Satoko really seems to lose it herself. You know, like, breaking down in the classroom, and then you have Keiichi, who also breaks down in a different way that same day, right? And after that is when you start to really see the, like, signs of him being crazy. So I really think it's caused by an emotional break, which again, kind of, like, you gotta wonder, like, well then, how could this be caused by any one person? And I think this is something I mentioned before. Shortly before these emotional breaks, every time, they talk to Takano. Right? Like, very shortly before this. In chapter 1, it was on the night of Watsunagashi, which was, what, like, not very long before, like, a few days, I believe, before Keiichi really starts to snap. And I think she kind of instilled this fear in him, right, of Watsunagashi, right? I also think Oishi kind of played a part in it, in a way, to be honest. Kind of making him think, like, you might be next, and then he's like, oh my god, they're gonna kill me, right? In chapter 2, again, the day she went to the library, and saw Takano was the day she went back and choked Mion, right? So again, Takano kind of instilled these ideas in her, right, that he was demoned away, right? And if Shion already thought that it was the Sonozakis doing the curse killings, then it makes sense that she would assume they were responsible for demoning away, and so again, kind of put these thoughts in her head. They don't show it in chapter 5, but the day that she kind of starts to lose her cool and hear the footsteps was the day of the Watsunagashi setup, which is the day they had the whole conversation with Takano regarding the curse killings and Yashiro-sama's curse, right? And then chapter 3, I don't remember the exact timeline, but I think it might have been that very day or like the day before that Keiichi went and talked to Takano. I think it wouldn't have been the same day. I think it was the day before, because I think it was, he talks to Takano, she implies it's the Sonozakis. He goes and talks to Mion and is like, can you curse them? And she's like, lol, no. That's not how it works. And then I think the next day, maybe. It might not be the exact next day. I don't remember the exact timeline there, but you get the point, right? Is that he put these thoughts into his head that they could just die, right? And it kind of causes him to spiral a little bit. So, I don't know. I definitely think, if I had to guess, that's what's causing it. It's an emotional breakdown that Takano just cleverly is causing, right? And if you cause it around that right time, you know, when they're going to kill someone, the time when you think you can get away with it, right? That's my current guess. And, like, the thing is, and the reason I mention all of this right now, right, is because Rena fits this. She fits this, right? She had that emotional breakdown. She lost her cool. And if I had to guess, right, the time that she doesn't remember is when she went cuckoo and, like, was beating out the windows in her school, and she, like hit some people with a bat, right? I'm guessing she doesn't remember this incident. And if I had to guess, it's because of whatever the cure is, right? Maybe it wipes your memories of like whatever happened then, right? Maybe. Or maybe she got some kind of therapy that like really made her forget this. Maybe she got cured and then had this therapy so that she couldn't remember it. Either way, whether that's a direct result of the cure or not, I assume this means she got cured, was kind of forced to forget these events, so maybe to help prevent them from happening again. Which is interesting. Very interesting. So you gotta... That's very interesting. The fact that she doesn't fully remember these events. Are there any other characters that have kind of showed signs of that, like spotty memory regarding a certain time, and that maybe indicates that they were ever cured at some point? I don't know. I can't think of anything, but very interesting. Yeah, okay, so I mean, basically, I think that's everything we needed to talk about. We talked about Rena, her backstory, and how obviously that would cause that emotional breakdown, how I think that's the cause of the craziness, or what really causes it to actually happen. There's probably some like that's the catalyst, I guess, but there has to be something else there too, I'd say, or else everyone in the world could have it, not just Hinamizawa's. As far as we know, it's only Hinamizawa's, at least. But so that backstory of hers could obviously cause that. And then, so the kind of interesting part is her forgetting everything. But then also interesting is how she feels today, right? That she'll pull the weeds, like in her words, right? The enemies, she's not going to feel kind of mercy towards them, it sounds like. So it sounds like we might get in this chapter someone that Rena really feels like is the enemy. And maybe she's going to just straight up kill him, right? Like, maybe. Which is interesting. So I'm really looking forward to see where we go from here. So I'm going to take a quick break, but then we will be back for another sub-chapter. This video is already pretty long. Maybe I should just cut it here, but I won't. Alright, and we're back. So let's go ahead and hop into sub-chapter 4. I kind of said everything that needed to be said, to be honest.
Oh, 来た来た。
Are we back to Keiichi's perspective?
おはよう、レナ。
今日はケイチ君の方が早かったね。
普段を棚にあげるわけじゃないが、俺が朝の待ち合わせでレナに勝つなんて珍しいこともあるもんだぜ。
Every now and then the late person's gonna show up early.
レナ、今朝はちょっとお寝坊した。
How late were you out?
ゆうべ寝つかれなくってね。
レナもか。実は俺もなんだよ。昨日の大騒ぎの余韻がずーっと残っててさ。
I feel like that's not what it was for her.
布団に入っててもなかなか眠くならなくて夜が長く感じたぜ。
Yesterday, I had a lot of fun with my friends and went home still riding that high. I was too full to eat dinner. I kept talking with my parents about the great time I had over the past few days. I was so pumped up that I couldn't go to sleep. Kinda sounds like I'm a little kid. But even though Rena seemed to be the same way, I felt better about it. No, I felt better isn't the right way of phrasing it. I should say I'm glad to know that we shared the same feeling. Something like that. Rena went treasure hunting after I left. I'm sure she found many adorable things, went home, and talked with her parents about how great the day was. Negative.
みーちゃんだ。おはよ
おお、ミオンが先に待ってるなんて今日は雪が降るかもな。
人が珍しく先に待ってりゃそういうこと言うわけ？
It's kinda rich.
う。それを言ったら私より先に待ってたケイチ君も珍しいよ。雪が降るかもね。
人のこと言えないね。
It's going to be another happy day today. I had fun the day before yesterday. I had fun yesterday. So I'm gonna have fun today for sure. I'm happy, and Mion is happy too. Of course, Ren and my other friends are equally happy. Are we sure about that? I'm not afraid to say it, and I wish these happy days would last forever.
なあミオン、今日は何をして遊ぼうな。
今日の部活？ 何がいいだろうね。レナは提案ある？
そうだね。昨日おとといと体を使うゲームが続いたから、今日はあまり体に激しくないゲームがいいな。
Something like cards.
そうだな。レナの言うのも一理あるぜ。部活は肉体勝負だけが全てじゃねえだろ。
もちろん心技体全ての要素において完璧であってこそ部活メンバーだからね。
Gotta be balanced.
じゃあ今日は何かテーブルゲームで遊ぶことにしよう。
Everybody was early this morning. We can enjoy our walk to school for once. After a while, we started talking about the upcoming festival. They told me that the festival was called Watanagashi and that it's the biggest event of the year in Hinamizawa.
そうだそうだ、昨日沖宮の家に親類が集まっていろいろと話が出たんだけどさ、ケイちゃんの話題が出たんだよ。
Did they now?
俺？園崎家の重鎮が集まって一体何の相談だよ。
いやさ、昨日のエンジェルモートでのケイちゃんの活躍を見てた店長の吉郎おじさんがさ、
Oh man, I'm sure he had something to say.
ケイちゃんのことを相当気に入っちゃったみたいでさ、それでいろいろと話を聞いてみたら、他の親類も意外にケイちゃんのことを知ってる人が多いんだよね。
I knew there was a reason Uncle Yoshiro was my goat.
ひなみ沢の名物男みたいな言われようだったよ。
名物男ってのはまた微妙な称号だな。
Not really, I'd imagine.
その称号の9割方はミオンの罰ゲームに関係があるような気がするぞ。
それだけじゃないけどさ、ノリもいいし元気があって無鉄砲なところも今時の若い子にしては感心感心とみんなベタ褒めだったよ。
Seem to really like Keiichi. I felt a bit embarrassed to know that people I haven't even met were speaking well of me.
でね、今後の渡流しのお祭りで何かで活躍してくれないかなって話が出てね。
What?
ケイちゃん目立つこととか好きでしょ？
Gonna have him as a merchant or something?
おいおいおいおい、本人不在で勝手に話を進めるな。俺は孤独と静寂を愛するロンリーガイだぜ。
Not quite how I'd describe him.
誰がロンリーガイだ？チェリーボーイの間違いでしょ？
はあ、チェリーってなんだろう、ケイチくん、チェリーボーイ。はあ。
To be honest, I don't know myself, but I assume it's not. I assume that's meant not in a positive manner.
うわー！年頃の娘どもが朝っぱらからはしたないこと言ってんじゃねえ。
We really were still feeling the after effects of yesterday. Mion and I made a lot of noise teasing each other on the way to school. I mean, if I had to guess, knowing Mion, we can contextually guess some general ideas. And they're all pretty demeaning if I had to guess. Rena watched us and laughed happily. Satoko and Rika-chan were already there when we arrived at school. They were also full of energy. Everyone's full of energy today and on time / early. Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun were too. From that, I can tell that they also had a good time yesterday. Everybody's been having a good time, really. In Hinamizawa, everybody is happy. Blind to the facts. Blind to the facts.
まだ引っ越してきて1年も経ったわけじゃないけどさ。
どうしたの突然？
いやさ、ひなみ沢に引っ越してきて俺幸せになったなって。
You are for now. You're glad for now.
どうしたのケイちゃん、急に臭いこと言い出して。
Give it to Watanagashi, bro.
レナにはわかるよ。ひなみ沢に引っ越してきてすべてが幸せになった気持ちよくわかる。この村にはね、きっと人を幸せにする魔法がかかってるんだと思うから。
レナは幸せか？
レナはひなみ沢に引っ越してきてからが毎日幸せだよ。
So we're just lying. We're just lying here. Seems like she's a pretty good liar.
そうだな。そいつは俺もだ。
ちょっと
Doesn't really look like anybody picked up on the fact that Rena's lying.
なんかおじさんだけのけ者っぽくない？ブーブー。
The sky was clear, and the few thin clouds were pure white. The cry of the cicadas was telling me that summer would be coming earlier than usual. Watanagashi is just around the corner. I'm sure we'll have great fun at the festival, too. There'll be more and more fun days to come, I'm sure of it. Summer is just around the corner. It might abruptly end, you never know. Okay, time for the Rena switch. The last class of the day was finally over, meaning there was time for club activities. I was sure it would be fun. I couldn't wait. Then Michan received a call and told us something had come up and she had to go. So we didn't have a club meeting today. Well, that's maybe not great. Rena's not going to be able to keep her mind off things. I was really looking forward to it. There was nothing I could do, but I could at least chat with Keiichi-kun on the way home. It'll be fun. Keiichi-kun sometimes says mean things, but he's very funny. When I chat with him, my depression goes away. Wait, what did I just say? Am I depressed? I have so much fun every day, and I'm as happy as I can be. What did I have to be depressed about? Well, it was obvious. Because of Rena-san, my father is happy now. Before he met her, he was like a lamp in broad daylight. Honestly, he was like the living dead. But after he met Rena-san, he started to smile like he used to when he was living with my mother. He enjoyed talking with her and started going out with her. You could probably say they went on dates. Now he looks 20 years younger. Rena-san gets along with my father very well, and she's very kind to me too. There's actually no reason for me to hate her. But the bitter memories of my parents' divorce and my many regrets were gradually eating away at my heart. Was it okay to accept that woman? Rena-san might be the same as how Uncle Akihito turned out to be. Is she the enemy who takes my happiness away with her very existence? With or without bad intentions? Am I going to sit around until everything collapses again? Should I fight the enemy before it's too late? Ugh. That's a dangerous line of thought, first of all. But, I mean, given her current state of mind, it's not terribly shocking that, right, like, something like this would be going through her head, right? Like, I mean, like, she said it herself, you know, like, she's depressed. I mean, this is one of the telltale, like, I don't know. I don't want to say this is one of the telltale signs of it, but it's like, that idea that just because you have fun and you go around and you're happy, it doesn't mean that you're not depressed. I feel like it's a very common misconception, you know? Rena-san comes to my house a little too obviously. Since my father started letting her stay the night, many of her belongings have turned up in the house. My father and I don't smoke, but there's an ashtray in the living room. The futon in our guest room is hers now. In the bathroom, there's a toothbrush and shampoo I'd never choose to buy. I started to feel awkward about those things, and that's when I started noticing it at the front door when I came home from school. Her perfume. I asked my father once if he was thinking about getting married to Rena-san. He looked a little embarrassed, perplexed, and confused. He told me, not yet. He knew I was hurt by the divorce. That's probably why he couldn't admit that he wanted to remarry. That's why he said, not yet. He'd consider it, but not while I was still living with him. That's what he meant, I guess. There's only one reason why I don't want him to get remarried to Rena-san. I feel offended that my sanctum, my family, is being invaded. I might be being selfish, though. I know keeping my father all to myself means keeping him miserable like he was before he met Rena-san. He has a life to live, too. It's his right to heal from the pain from the divorce and to live, to find his new love. He wouldn't have had to go through that painful life if I'd prevented the divorce from happening in the first place. Okay, yeah, you really don't need to blame yourself for that, but whatever. He has a right to a happy new life that lets him forget the pain he never deserved, and I don't have any right to stop him. In fact, I have an obligation to try to return his happiness to him. I have to pay for my sin, my inability to prevent his divorce. I keep saying this, but that's really a bad way to think about this. Then, what should I do to make both of us happy? It wouldn't be that difficult. All I need to do would be to give my silent approval of their relationship. My father tells me he won't get remarried while we live together. That means I should stop leaning on my family, be strong, and live on my own as soon as I can. I mean, maybe. I really don't think that's completely necessary. I can see why she would think that way, I suppose, though. Although, that doesn't mean I can tell him not to go out with her until that day. Rena-san comes to our house to see him despite her busy schedule, and she even stays the night whenever her shifts permit. They're adults. I have no rights to say anything against that. That's why I chose to give my silent approval to their relationship, and tried to see her as little as I could. I get along with Rena-san on the surface. I know my father would have a hard time keeping face if we didn't. But it's a very exhausting and painful thing to get along with a person I don't really like. So whenever Rena-san comes over, I spend as much time as possible outside and then head home late. Michan's club activities are the most convenient things to do to kill time. There's some days when we don't have a club meeting. On those days, I while away my time at the garbage dump hunting for treasure alone. And that's how I started to make my secret hideout. My father can do whatever he wants with Rena-san at home. I don't have to see them together. I can spend my time peacefully at my hideout. I sometimes feel depressed about my life. I sometimes want to talk to somebody about it, but nothing will change, even if I talk to somebody. Yeah, that's a really common mindset there, is like, look, even if it might not actually explicitly change, Rena being at the house and everything, and how it's helping her father in that moment, right? And it might not even change her desire for no one to kind of change their current family unit, right? But talking to somebody will obviously help her vent a little bit, maybe change her mind on certain things. I don't know. You think that talking won't change anybody or change anything when it really could. This is all I can really do. The most important thing for me should be to overcome the sadness of losing my family as fast as I could and to regain my own happiness. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But, I mean, you basically just said, yeah, just stop being depressed. Duh. Right? Like, obviously, it's really not that simple. I do want to say with this one, sometimes talking really can't change anything, but I feel like it's very common that people think they can't talk to anyone when even just the act of talking to someone might it might not change anything, but it might relieve some of the, like, the stress or the burden, right? Or whatever you feel. I have so much fun every day. I'm happy every day. Even on the way home, Keiichi-kun was talking about funny things that made me laugh. My feeling gloomy in spite of that was kind of rude. That's a preposterous statement. But again, if you're in that state of mind, I get why you would make it. My father should be happy. I should be happy. I just feel sad because I still can't separate from my father. Compared to the unexpectedness of the divorce, Rena-san's invasion is a very slow process. I think Rena-san understands how I feel. She treats me very kindly, but she doesn't do more than that. I think she understands that I'd feel uncomfortable if she did. I respect Rika-chan because she's strong even without her parents. Compared to the pain of losing both her parents unexpectedly, my problem is like nothing. I respect Satoko-chan's toughness too. She also lost her parents and was forced to live a painful life under her uncle and aunt. Compared to the cruel treatment she had to go through, my relationship with Rena-san is a blessed one. I keep feeling anxious, but that's just because I'm still immature, and because I feel like I'm not ready to separate from my father. I have to be strong like Rika-chan and Satoko-chan. I have to try my best to be happy. I'm going to live with all my might, in order to regain the peace of mind that I lost that day. My assumption that I'm not happy is just a mistake. Well, okay, well, don't discredit your feelings like that. I should appreciate the wonderful days I spend with my wonderful friends. Just by realizing that I'm happy, the world shines so brightly.
それでね、あんまりにも可愛いから、レナ、ハウお持ち帰りって。
やれやれ。
You'd be wrong to take that bet.
レナは毎日を楽しく過ごすことに関しては達人だな。
Ooh. Accidentally saying the exact thing that she maybe will take the wrong way. That's the Keiichi way, huh?
レナは毎日が楽しいよ。こんなにも素敵な友人たちに囲まれて過ごす、こんなにも素晴らしい日々があって、どうして不幸が感じられる？
Trying to convince herself.
だな。不幸なんかここにはないよ。
Now he's saying the exact wrong things. He's so good at this. Dang, Keiichi, you have a talent.
いつまでも楽しくて不幸なことなんかとは、それがひなみ沢ってとこなんだからよ。
Okay, now that one's just wrong. He doesn't know that yet, but like, yikes. He should have stopped right there, but he just kept going.
レナが羨ましいよな。
Oh my god, he's not done?
その悩み知らずな能天気さが羨ましいぜ。
Oh! Yikes. Bro is the master of putting his foot in his mouth.
はあ、バカにされてるっぽい気がする。でも、毎日が楽しいなら、私は能天気でもいいかな。
That is actually something she's like already said. If being dumb would make her happy, she would be.
かな？
I don't have any worries. I feel like I do, but that's just because I'm immature and still want my father's attention. Come on, say the magical words. It'll cheer you up.
はあ、
Huh?
Didn't make sense to say it now. I'm just gonna say it anyway, because this is my magical phrase that always cheers me up.
はう、お持ち帰り。
なんだよ突然。でもそれでこそレナだぜ。
That's right. This is me, Rena. I'm not Rena. Rena still wants her parents' attention. Rena is a goofy and carefree girl. She knows that every day is full of happiness and she has the kind heart to appreciate it too. I should forget about icky things. I should live a wonderful life free of anything icky. Icky starts with I, and that's why I got rid of the I in Rena. I wonder what that said before translation. I feel like there's no way it's probably the same sentiment, but I'm Rena. I'm going to recapture the happiness I lost when I left Hinamizawa. I will overcome any pain and hardship. I can be happy because I got rid of key things. I'm sure there are only incredible things waiting for me. Oh, incredible starts with I too. I was almost home, and when my house appeared, I noticed something different there. There was a truck parked in front of my house. There was nothing on the back of it, but I can tell it brought something here, because I saw some cardboard boxes, blankets, and ropes on the ground. Oh, she moving in! From the front of the house, I heard voices of two young men saying, "Well, we'll be going now." They passed me by as I walked towards the front door. They were wearing some kind of work uniforms. They looked like delivery people. My father was about to close the door when he noticed me.
ただいま。何かあったの？
おかえり、レーナ。
Yeah, she moved in, bro.
見てごらん。すごいぞ。
Not one you're gonna enjoy. My father looked to be in a good mood. I didn't know why he was, but whenever he smiled like that, I just wanted to smile back at him. His eyes used to look like those of a dead fish, no matter how hard I tried to smile at him. But these days, he could put on a big smile just to surprise me. He's been literally coming back to life since a year ago when we moved back to Hinamizawa. No, since he started dating Rena-san. When I see him smile like this, I'm happy. But at the same time, I feel confused because I don't know whether I should thank Rena-san or not.
ほら、すごいだろ。
He took me to the living room. He was probably expecting me to go all ooh and ah. So, whether there was something in the living room or not, I was ready to go ooh and ah for him.
はあ、何これ？どうしたのお父さん？
I tried to sound excited and surprised. He was standing behind me, probably smiling with satisfaction at hearing my excited voice. I, on the other hand, was desperately trying to understand what was going on. For a moment, I thought I was in someone else's house. You see, the living room had been completely redecorated. The furniture we had was all basically from the former house in Ibaraki. My parents bought most of the furniture when they got married, so it was all old and a little dirty. Some of them still had crayon scribbles I drew when I was very little, but all of that was gone. Everything in the living room had turned to pastel color, looking very sophisticated like the rooms you'd see in soap operas. The new carpet looked very tropical. The new curtains matched with the carpet. The new sofa looked very expensive. The living room in general looked like a resort hotel. The channel switcher of our old TV was broken, and we used to have to use pliers to change channels, but it was gone too, replaced by a new one with a big screen. The room's lights had also been replaced by nicer looking ones. The living room looked like a totally different world under the new fluorescent lights.
すごいね、お父さん。これはどうしたの？
心機一転さ。もう引っ越してきて1年にもなるんだから。お父さんもそろそろ気分を切り替えて、新しい生活に踏み出さないとなって思ったんだよ。
She might not like that symbolism, but especially because it kind of, especially if he got rid of the old furniture, like, right, the ones that she'd been using for all this time that she was familiar with, that had her old crayon drawings on them, you know, like. I suggested redecorating the house once in order to cheer him up, because he was still in pain after the divorce, but he wasn't interested at the time. He didn't want to get rid of the old furniture he had chosen with my mother, because he still couldn't get over her even though she cruelly broke up with him. I wanted to suggest it again when the time was right. I never thought he'd do it of his own initiative.
そうだね。こんな綺麗なお部屋だと心も晴れ晴れするもんね。
I feel like deep down she doesn't like it.
素敵なお部屋だと思うよ。
いいだろう。ほら、レーナ。お前、ユリースに憧れてたろ。まだ組み立ててないけど、ちゃんとあるんだぞ。はう、
お父さんすごいすごいすごい。これ、私がもらってもいいのかな？
こらこら、それはみんなの共用のものだから、レーナだけってわけじゃないんだぞ。
Everybody's a big word. Everybody doesn't imply two people.
共用でもレナが占領しちゃうからダメ。
My father explained the details of his redecoration proudly. He told me that he only did the living room this time, but he's going to redecorate all of the rooms. He sure had become more active. Man, where is he getting the funds for this? Bro jugged it from the Sonozaki's. Unlucky. No, seriously, where is he getting the funds for this? Like, where do you work? Where do you work, bro? Did he get, like, a big settlement, like, with the divorce? Like, did he get a chunk of change that he hasn't spent or something? Does he work a crazy job? I don't know. I wouldn't assume someone in Hinamizawa works something that good, but I guess he could go out to town, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Probably not that money. Or probably not that important where he got the money. Unless, you know, unless it was a gift from Rena. There are some parts about the redecoration I didn't like, but I still thought it was great because it made him happy. I found the old furniture outside in the yard.
あれは捨てちゃうの？
まあ、この際だと思ってな。後で業者が引き取りに来てくれることになってる。
Getting rid of the old furniture means putting an end to my mother. I hated the furniture because it smelled like my mother, and I tried to break everything once. I understand why my father wants to take this opportunity to get rid of them. But, for some reason, this new living room makes me feel like I no longer belonged here. My father didn't choose the new furniture. Rena-san probably did. Most likely, my father and Rena-san decided to redecorate the living room and went to a furniture store to buy everything. I tried to think positively. The reason why my father didn't tell me about the redecoration was because he wanted to surprise me. No. My father never really considers things that deeply. So I suppose he didn't tell me because he just didn't think he needed to tell me. I'm sure he didn't redecorate the living room to make me feel like I was no longer welcome. Don't be negative, Rena. My father didn't have any bad intentions. He doesn't want to get rid of me. He doesn't think I'm the reason he can't get remarried. And yet, why did I feel sad looking at the old furniture in the yard? Why did I feel like I didn't belong? I realized the reason right away. That reason was me. To him, wanting to have a fresh start by getting rid of the things that remind him of my mother might be an indication of his unconscious desire to get rid of her daughter. That's a leap. I can get why she makes that leap, but that's a leap. My father doesn't really consider things deeply, so he might not be thinking that I'm the reason he can't get remarried. But he understands that he can't get remarried while we live together. By staying with him, I'm torturing my father. It was my fault that he had to get a divorce. That's why I have to support him, to help him recapture his happiness. I couldn't just keep him all to myself. I'd have to start thinking about living on my own. I don't need to go to university. I should think about getting a job. Who would hire an uneducated girl like me? Even if somebody did hire me, I wouldn't be able to earn enough money to live on my own. Maybe I should think about working at a hostess club, like Rena-san does. Ooh. Ooh. Maybe not, actually. People only choose the jobs they can. A girl like me doesn't have a lot of choices. Not a lot of companies would hire me or pay the amount of money that I need to live on my own. But, come to think of it, where is the place where I belong? Whenever I end up feeling like this, I miss my secret hideout in the trash piles. I love to get under my blanket and feel the warmth on a cold night. The hideout gets hot and humid during the day and very cold at night. It's not a comfortable place to spend time in, but it might be the place where I can relax the most, more than I can at my house. No, I shouldn't think like this. I shouldn't think that my house has been invaded by Rena-san. I should thank her for making my father happy. Rena-san isn't trying to kick me out of the house. She's trying to get along with me, but I'm not opening my heart to her. I'm the bad one. I'm the bad one. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Satoshi-kun and his aunt didn't get along at all, and she abused him for a long time. Compared to him, my situation is a lot easier. Satoko-chan and Rika-chan lost their parents, and they live together now. They've been through very hard times. On the other hand, I still live with my father. I should feel blessed. I shouldn't think I'm unhappy just because of these things. I am happy. I am blessed. The trouble with me is that I still can't admit that I'm happy. I mean, that's so hard, right? Like, I've said this many times, not necessarily in Higurashi. I know I said this many times during Fate. You can't really compare traumas and happiness with someone else, right? Like, look, just because other people went through things doesn't mean you don't have the right to feel upset or depressed with your situation. And she is currently denying feeling this way, and it's kind of hurting any progress she could make towards like getting out of this. You know, I don't know. It's one thing I'm thinking about, and honestly, seeing the way she really feels, it starts to make a lot more sense why at the beginning of the chapter she's like talking about how bad fortune won't just change with luck or a little bit of support. It requires something drastic. Right? Because at this point, it looks like it might require something drastic, you know? Like for her, at least. Very interesting seeing her mindset. I mean, it's tragic to see, of course, you know. But we'll just keep moving for now. My father kept talking proudly about the redecoration. I nodded at him with a big smile and let him keep at it.
そうだ、いけない。レイナ、すまないんだが、ちょっとお使いを頼めないか？
お使い？うん、いいよ。
お父さんな、ジャケットを2着ほど洋服屋さんに取り寄せさせてるんだ。それがな、今日届くらしいんだ。ちょっとお父さんは回収業者さんを手伝わなきゃならないから、レーナが代わりに取ってきてくれないか？
いいお店を教えて。どんなジャケットを取り寄せたんだろう。楽しみ。
No matter what they look like, I'm sure Rena-san picked them out for him. Although I don't mind going, I'd rather go to the store than listen to his stories about the redecoration of our living room. I got the receipt, asked him where the store is, changed my clothes, and left the house. I started pedaling my bicycle and looked at my old furniture in the yard for the last time. They used to be the object of my hatred, but for some reason, they now made me feel sentimental. Is it because I still regret the loss of my mother, even though I hate her? I couldn't let poisonous emotions take over my heart. I understood that in my mind, but I just couldn't get rid of that feeling. The old furniture wasn't the only stuff that was kicked out of the house. There's also a lot of junk that I brought home from the landfill. My father was probably going to throw that away too. Well, that's a little messed up. I mean, I can get why he doesn't like it, but I don't know. He doesn't like the junk I collect. He'll probably let the delivery company take it all together with the old furniture. Just like an animal that rubs its scent on its home in order to feel secure. I collected all the junk in order to make sure that I could stay here. No, that's not it. I wanted to bring them to my house because they were abandoned by their former owners. And they needed a place to live. Oh. Oh, come on. Is that really... Oh, that's the backstory behind it. Oh, that's actually so sad. That's actually so sad. Dang. Because I'm just thinking about it, and it's like, she already said the place that she feels she belongs is, you know, at the junkyard, because, like, basically she feels, like, kind of close to the trash, right? So the reason she's bringing the trash home in the first place is because she feels like it needs a place to stay, so that obviously implies she feels the same way. That's hard, man. Oh my goodness. The store where my father ordered the jackets from is a fancy boutique. It's hard to believe my father would shop at a store like this on his own. I could tell right away that Rena-san took him here. I handed over his receipt to the cashier. A short time later, the store manager came out wearing a perplexed look.
リュウグウ様、大変申し訳ございません。実は入荷のトラックが高速で事故渋滞に巻き込まれているようでございまして、おそらくはもうじき到着すると思うのですが。
He said that the driver called a while ago, told him he just got off the highway and would be here in about an hour. I didn't need to know all the details, but he explained that to me anyway. I asked him if I should come back tomorrow. He insisted that I should wait because the truck would be coming shortly, and he urged me to take a seat on their sofa. But I didn't really feel comfortable waiting there, so I told him I'd be back soon and left the store. I wondered if there were any fast food restaurants nearby. I might have to go all the way back to the station. I looked around and found a coffee house. The glass on the door was black, so I couldn't see inside. But there was a poster saying the price for a cup of tea is lower than normal for women on weekdays. I'd just be going to get a cup of tea to kill some time. It should be okay. I feel like she's going to be stepping into an establishment that she should not be stepping into. But still, I hesitated to go inside before opening the door. Like the type of place that is discounting things for women on certain days. I feel like that's usually... I think of like... I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong to think this. Like, I think that's a thing bars do, right? Like, I don't really go to bars, really. But, like, that's a thing that bars do sometimes, is they'll, like, make drinks maybe cheaper, like, admission-free for women. Maybe, like, nightclubs is more what I'm thinking. I think that's a thing that happens. If not, you know, maybe ignore me, but... Because if it's a place with the same vibe, right, that would not be great. But still, I hesitated to go inside before opening the door. Her first impression of the coffee house is the smell of cigarettes. It's normal for coffee houses to be filled with cigarette smoke. It's like a requirement. But Rena still regretted her decision. While she was thinking about leaving, the proprietor spoke to her brusquely and showed her to a table. Rena gave up on the idea of leaving and sat down. The atmosphere in the shop was far from a clean, normal coffee house where you'd go to simply enjoy coffee and cigarettes. It was more like a place where vulgar people would hang around. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Is she gonna see Rena with, like, Tepe? Is that what's about to happen? Oh, that would be bad. That would be really bad. Wouldn't it? That would be really bad. Rena didn't feel comfortable at all, but what bothered her most was the laughter of a man and woman sitting together in the very back of the shop. Her table was behind a planter, so depending on how one looked at it, one could say she was in the spot most protected from their laughter. But Rena looked as though she wanted to leave as soon as she finished her tea. The bell hanging from the entrance door rang, letting her know a customer just came in. Whose perspective are we seeing right now? Because it doesn't seem like Rena's. Like, I don't know. Like, text color change and everything. What we've been seeing with Keiichi, I don't assume Keiichi is here, but... So I don't know if the narrator jumped, or if we're just kind of doing, like, a third-person thing. I don't know. It was a little surprising for her that a coffee shop like this could draw on so many customers. Rena peeked at the newcomers from behind the planter. There were two of them. They looked like vulgar men, the kind of people you didn't want to get involved with the instant you saw them. The proprietor tried to show them to a table. They ignored him and walked towards the back. They walked up to the couple who had been laughing loudly and greeted them with a bow.
Oh.
Oh, no.
やっと来よったんか。まあ座れや。
The couple stopped laughing, and the man told the newcomers to sit down in a threatening tone of voice. As instructed, the two of them took a seat.
で、どういうこったん？
すんまへん。なんとかその。
ごたくはええねポゲ。とっととうなるもんさらさんかい。
The two of them looked at each other before they each took an envelope out of their pockets and put it on the table. The man roughly grabbed the two envelopes and tore one of them open. Inside, there were many wrinkled 10,000 yen bills bound into a bundle with a rubber band. He opened the other one to make sure it also had cash in it and then threw it to the woman.
おい、数え。
ちょっと、私に命令しないでくれる？もともと私の金なんだから。
じゃがましい。黙って数えんなえんねん。
Yep, this is about exactly what I expected. Well, this could cause her to take some drastic measures if I do say so myself. The man yelled at the woman. She licked her thumb, looking annoyed, and started counting the cash expertly. The two newcomers hung their heads while she counted. Lighting a cigarette, the man waited for her to finish counting.
はいよ、全部あるわよ。
The woman said that after flicking through the last bill. The newcomers looked relieved. The man, however, didn't look satisfied as he stared at the bundle of the bills the woman was holding.
リツコ。
That is the name that I was remembering.
それいくらあった？
Ritsuko.
リツコ。それいくらあった？
That's the name I was remembering, not Rena. That's why it didn't seem to fully match for me, I think, at first. But it was close.
ん？全部って言ったわよ。
全部っていくらかっちゅって聞いとんねん。
だから、私が貸した金、全部。
バゲが。利子はついとるか聞いとるんねん。
The man and Ritsuko yelled at each other. Even though they were making all that noise, the other customers acted like they didn't hear anything.
おい、兄さん方。200万ビッタンこっきゃないんね。どういうこっちゃ？
The two of them were trying to find some excuses to make. It seemed like his behavior had touched the man's nerves, as he started looking furious.
おら！黙っとったらわからんがな！
His angry voice echoed through the shop. He hit the table hard and dropped a glass on the floor. The noise thickened the tension in the atmosphere.
すんまへん。
すまんで済んだら警察はいらんちゅうねん。ごしとら出るとこ出ても一個に構わんでんの。
それはどうかご勘弁ください。
The two newcomers must have been in an extremely vulnerable position. They bowed so deeply that their foreheads almost touched the table.
それを勘弁したるって今日呼んだんねん。それがどういうけじめのつけ方な。あ？
すんまへん、エロすんまへん。
While you could pity them, the newcomers looked as vulgar as the man threatening them, making it hard to decide whether you should feel sorry for them or not. After a while, Ritsuko opened her mouth as if to offer them help.
てっちゃん？すごんじゃかわいそうでしょ？ごめんね。うちの人、銭絡むとすぐトサカに来ちゃう人で。
銭絡むと余計だんねん。お前にあやつけよったんから本気になっとんよ、おら。
Okay, I wanted to see if Tepe got sprites in all of them too.
もうバカなこと言っても何にも出ないわよ。
The man pulled Ritsuko roughly into his arms and frantically kissed her lips without caring about the other customers. Their kiss wasn't like the lovely ones that normal couples would share. It looked obscene instead. He let her lips go to take a breath, kissed them again, and repeated that for a while. After a while, he finally got bored of kissing and let her go.
うちの人は私のことになるとすぐ頭に血が上っちゃうのよね。困ったもんなのよ。
おう、そうよ。こいつと俺はいわば一心同体ね。この女に泥塗り腐るやつは俺に塗ったんと同じやんな。血祭りじゃすまんね。
いつぞやかの、ほら、あいつ。あれ、表連れてってからどうしたんだったっけ？
I have a feeling Rena's not gonna have a good reaction to all of this. Because you gotta wonder, where is that money coming from? You just gotta wonder if that's what Rena's wondering now. Is this like, if it's all coming from her, it could be a money lending thing, right? She might realize what's happening to these guys might happen to her father. This is my immediate thought.
あんバカが表へ出るとか抜かしょんから野郎空手やるとか抜かしおるからどの程度か思うたん。ちょっとしばいたら即土下座やん。拍子抜けしたからズボン脱がせてそいつでこの表の歩道を磨かせてやったわ。
Jesus.
おお、俺町の役に立っとんね。
That's one way to put it.
お役所に表彰してもらいたいんわ。
やだ、そんなことさせたの？
What a guy. What a guy.
あんたって時々容赦がないのよね。
They started laughing loudly like they were doing earlier. Their laughter obviously intimidated their companions.
ねえ、あんたたち。てっちゃん、今日はね、すっごく機嫌がいいの。普段だったら銭が足りんって騒ぎ出して、今頃あんたたちすっぱだかにされて玉子川に叩き込まれてるわよ。
すまへんすまへん。
まあ利子は忘れたちゅうたかてかっちり期日までに額を揃えたんだきゃ感心さな。そこいらへん評価したってもええんで。
Still probably about to get beat up.
それでね、てっちゃんの利子今日だから5本で済むけど、すぐに売買ゲームになっちゃうでしょ。そしたらあんたたちすぐに逆立ちしても払えなくなっちゃうわよ。でね、私あんたたちにいい話があんの。てっちゃん、悪いけどあんたちょっと席を外してちょうだい。
しょうがねえな。
The man left the table with a grin and headed for the bathroom. He was far too amenable to their request, as if they'd planned for him to leave the table at that moment. Ritsuko made sure he was in the bathroom and took some papers out of her bag and spread them on the table.
あんたたちも若いんだから、あんなヤクザに絡まれて一生を不意にしたくないでしょ。
So she's playing like good cop here in a way, if that makes sense.
だからね、てっちゃんの利子は今日きっちり払っちゃいなさい。そうすればあんたたちはとりあえずあいつとは縁を切れるわけなんだから。
そりゃそうですけど、でも50万なんてこれ以上もう払えないっす。
まあそうよね。200万だって相当精一杯集めたんでしょ。
Got quite a scheme running here between these two.
さらに50万も工面できるあてなんてないでしょう。
They must have done their very best to collect even the money they brought today, so it must be impossible for them to collect even a dime from anybody now. They hung their heads and told her that.
でね、ほら、気を利かせて私が書いてきてあげたのよ。
I'll pay it for you, and you'll pay me back, I'm guessing. What, like they're in debt to her now? The guys looked at the paper on the table and muttered under their breaths.
担保も連帯もいらないんで、ちょいと利率はあれだけど、これなら即50万積んでくれるわよ。それにさ、この利率でもてっちゃんの利率よりははるかにマシだと思うんだけど、どう思うかしら。
Still obscenely high, but better than being in debt to him, is how they're playing it. It'll be easy for anyone to guess what Ritsuko was trying to force them to do.
これにサインしたのを見せれば、彼も男気を感じて勘弁してくれると思うわね。どうする？あ、万年筆。使うなら置いとくわよ。
They read the small print on the documents and were stunned by the outrageous interest rate. Ritsuko didn't force them to do anything. She just looked out the window and smoked her cigarette. After a while, the man returned from the bathroom.
おう、話はついだが。
They looked at him, steeled themselves, and took the pen.
てっちゃんの利子、借金で一括返済するって。
おうおう、感心なワーコードだね。男は背負うもんがなくちゃあかんね。
They must have planned this from the very beginning. Oh, very obviously. The man and Ritsuko got what they wanted and grinned at each other. There were many things to fill out on the documents, and it was taking them a long time. The man and Ritsuko, already knowing that, started talking amongst themselves.
リツコ、お前のひなみ沢の旦那の調子はどうなんね。
Uh-oh.
旦那なんてよしてよね。
どうなんよ。だいぶ銭持っとんと聞かされてるん。どのぐらい絞れそうなんよ。
そうそう、それがさ、すっごいのよ。
No, so he had all the money already and she's trying to get it, is what's happening here.
別れた奥さんがだいぶ慰謝料をくれたらしいってのは聞いてたのよ。
Yeah, that was the other place the money could have come from.
でもね、それが本当にすっげえあるらしいのよね。
かなりってどのぐらいねん？
銀行に5000万くらい持ってるわよ。あぶく銭なわけだしね。もう気前がいいのなんのって。
なんねそれ。で、どの辺まで行けそうなんね？
私にだいぶお熱みたいだからね。だって私が言えば何でも買うのよ。何でも。あんたみたいなドケチとは大違いよね。私も本気になっちゃおうかしら。
抜かせボケ。俺以上の男が他にいるか。
Yeesh. Maybe a little vulgar.
もうこんなところでよしてよ。
で、そのひなみ沢の旦那にどう持ってくつもりなんよ。
あんたを出しに手切れ金がいるって方向で持ってくつもりなのよ。
なんぼふっかけるつもりね。
そりゃ
つっくづく恐ろしい女じゃんね。
Probably like literally all of it.
エキストラがいるときは呼んでな。俺も大暴れしちゃるんで。
すみません。書きました。
ああ、じゃそれ持ってローン行こうか。律子、会計頼むね。
The man pat them on their shoulders and then walked to the door. Another person was just about to enter and they nearly ran into each other. The man probably wouldn't make way for the person considering his personality. But when he noticed who that person was, he stepped aside. Hello? Hello? How funny of you to show up. Oh no. Tell me Kasai's in deeper than it seemed. He was wearing a black suit with sunglasses on. He wasn't that big, but his stern look was very intimidating. It was clear at a glance that he was a gangster, and a professional one at that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I knew that. I definitely never was under the impression that he was, like, a good guy. But they made it sound like he was retired, right? Is he not, actually? The man who was behaving badly earlier looked a little nervous in front of him. As Ritsuko finished paying the check, she noticed the man in the suit.
総支配人。
General Manager.
どうもおはようございます。
The man in the suit said nothing. He just raised his chin as if saying, fuck off. What the hell? So what, Kasai, the general manager of the Blue Mermaid? That's what it's called, right? Place that ends up getting robbed. Ritsuko and the others bowed to him and left the shop in a hurry. The proprietor noticed the man in the suit, also greeting him with a bow. Who could he have been? He appeared sedate, compared to the other men, but he must be dangerous, because he made even them step aside. Everybody in the shop thought the same thing and tried not to look at him. The man in the suit looked around and found the menu on the wall. The proprietor walked up to him hesitantly.
Master.
はい。何か部長報がございましたでしょうか。
この日替わりデザートのスイートなんとかというのは今日はやっているのか。
いえ、本当は今日はやってないんですが、どうしてもとおっしゃるんでしたら特別にご用意を。
Are we about to see him like crash out?
無理なら無理と言ってくれればいい。出直す。
ほら、葛西。特別にご用意って言ってくれてるじゃないですか。
Okay, so Shion's here. Maybe that's why he's like reserved. They all seem to fear him, so I can't help but feel like this is not actually his normal demeanor. This is how he's always acted around Shion.
ここまで来てみっともない。
The girl seemed to be the only one who couldn't read the heavy atmosphere in the shop, and she came in laughing cheerfully. It was Mion Senazaki's twin sister, Shion. Shion pushed Kasai into the store while he hesitated. She looked at a girl who was sitting down and stopped in her tracks.
あれ？やっぱりそうだ。ハロローン。レナさんじゃないですか。こんにちは。
あ、しーちゃん？
こんなとこで会うなんてびっくりです。あれ？お一人？ひょっとして誰かと待ち合わせ？お姉かな？いやいや、ひょっとしてケイちゃんかな？
We do a little bit of teasing.
しーちゃん、その連れの人は？
葛西のこと？まあ、私のボディーガードとか思っといてください。命の危険が迫ったら葛西が守ってくれるんだよね。
それがお望みでしたら命に代えてでも。
うわー、葛西、あと20も若かったらやばいかもだね。
Yo.
顔は怖いけど面白いやつです。こちらはね、竜宮レナさん、お姉のお友達。
葛西です。よろしく。
葛西さん、さっきすれ違った人たちは知り合いですか？
Kasai nodded, indicating that he was familiar with them.
誰？私は全然あんなの見たことないけど。
I'm guessing Rena wants some information on them because she recognized who that was.
男は北条哲平。ちょいと礼儀知らずのろくでなしです。
Shion seemed to know who he was once he heard the name Hojo.
女の人の方は？
間宮里奈。
Yikes.
源氏名だと思いました。確か律子って名前だったかと。フラワーロードの店の一つで働いてる従業員です。
Flower Road? I haven't heard of that place, I don't think.
葛西さん、里奈さんとその北条さんはどういう人たちなんですか？とても仲が良さそうに見えました。
北条は確か里奈とは深い仲かと。たちの悪い連中ですので、関わり合いになられない方がいいと思います。
Rena's gut winning once again.
どうたちが悪いんですか？
Rena pressed him for the answer, and Kasai seemed to back down a little from that pressure.
女の私生活には触れないのが仁義ってもんです。
どうたちが悪いんですか？
それはご勘弁を。
どうたちが悪いんですか？
So pushy. Rena kept asking the same question until she got an answer. Shion sensed how desperate Rena was and cut into the conversation.
葛西、意地悪しないで教えてあげなさいよ。興味本位で聞いてるわけじゃなさそうだしさ。ね、レナさん。
There was tension developing between Rena and Kasai. Shion seemed to be the only one who couldn't read the mood. No, she's reading it perfectly, actually. She's literally the one who said, like, this isn't just curiosity. Like, she needs an answer, you know? I think she's reading it perfectly well. Kasai finally opened his mouth.
あの二人はたちの悪いろくでなしどもです。
This is a new track, I think. Got a creepy vibe.
恐喝と博打で生計を立ててると聞いています。詐欺行為もやるって話で。
詐欺ってどんな？
あいつらの詐欺ってのは、まあ、結婚詐欺ってやつですか？
Yikes!
要するに、男の人に言い寄って、いい感じになったところで、相棒の男が乱入して、俺の女に何しやがるって金を巻き上げる古典的恐喝です。
Yikes.
散々貢がされた挙句、根こそぎ巻き上げようっていうクズどもです。最近でかい相手を引っ掛けたらしいと噂になっています。
ちゃあ、そりゃあどちら様か存じないけど気の毒なこと
で。They have not picked up on this.
でもまあ、鼻の下を伸ばした代償なわけだし、自業自得？
そんな言い方はないもんです。
That is a little harsh. And I imagine Rena's not too happy with you now.
男は時にコロッと女に騙されちまうもんですよ。
ほー。
Oh, she just gone?
何それ。葛西をコロッと騙した女って誰？マスター、デザートは私と葛西と、あとレナさんでって。
She just
あれ？
dipped.
今お帰りになりましたよ。
Rena was already gone. The door, which had just closed, looked as if it was the only thing that knew where she went. Uh-oh. I feel like she's gonna take some drastic measures. I really believe that. How drastic? That's a good question, but I'm sure they're drastic. When I got home, the door was locked. I used my key to get in, and I found a note in the living room. Something's come up, so I have to go. I'm going to eat out tonight, is what the note said. This wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. Each time, he only told me he had to go to Okonomiya for something, but I knew the real reason, because I heard him talking on the phone once. Rena-san must have had some free time between jobs and asked him out to have dinner together. I heaved a sigh, looking at the new living room I hated, and went to my room. I thought back over what I just heard at the coffee house. I tried to rationalize the meaning of her actions there. Maybe she had to pretend to be a bad person because she was being threatened by the man. But even after the man she called Techan... I don't know why I almost said that. It's so weird. But even after the man she called Techan left the table, she continued to threaten the guys and pushed them into signing the loan contract immediately. If she was threatened to play along with the man, she wouldn't have done that. If she was pretending to be a bad person, she could have shown a little bit of mercy or sympathy when he left her alone with them. It's like holding water in a bowl you made with your hands. No matter how sturdy you made the bowl, water would leak from your fingers. Mercy and sympathy leak out from you. But nothing, not even a drop of water, leaked from Rena-san. Her hands weren't even moist. They were all dried up. There was no water that could leak through those hands. Rena-san was threatening those guys as much as the man was. Neither was leading the other along. They were doing it together. That was it. Rena-san is a bad person. My brain cells accepted the idea with applause. After all, I always hated Rena-san. I just couldn't accept the feeling because my father liked her. But at that moment, I could finally accept it. She's a bad person, just like my mother. She's an existence that will ruin everything and destroy my father's happiness just by being with him. But I wonder if my father would understand that Rena-san is a bad person if I told him so. Nope, he would not. My father likes her so much that he would jump over a cliff if she asked him to. He thinks everything she does or says is great, and he interprets everything about her in a positive way. He protects her and praises her without her asking him to. I'm not a kid anymore. I understand how a woman can tame a man. It's different from love. Love is about trying to build a relationship. Taming is just a way of satisfying the lust to dominate. She's just trying to make him into her slave. Because she wants the money. Women can deceive men, even my father. They can use dirty methods to ensnare men like they're following a manual. It's the weak point all men are born with. Even with a strong will, they can't resist it. That's why we hate those women who exploit that weak point to deceive men. That's why I couldn't bring myself to like Rena-san. For the sake of argument, let's assume I acknowledge an unreciprocated love like that. But that would only be as long as it was love. If it wasn't love, if it was just a method to threaten and squeeze money out of him, I would never forgive her. I remember the conversation at the coffee house. Rena-san said that my father is a big spender. In fact, I think he spends more money without hesitation than before he met Rena-san. I was happy that he started to regain an interest in going out into the world again, but now I don't know whether I should be happy or not. He controls the money of the Ryugu family overall, but since I do the grocery shopping, he often gives me his bank book, so that I can withdraw money. Because of that, I know where he keeps his bank book, his personal seal, and other important stuff. They're in one of his drawers, which he usually locks. I know where he hides the key, and I know the combination of the cash box inside the drawer. He might be coming back soon, so I felt a little nervous. But I had to make sure. I opened the cash box, which had some bank books, personal seals, stamps, and unused postcards. I removed everything from the cash box to get at the bank books. Then I found something new. On the bottom of the box, there was a bundle of new 10,000 yen bills. Its thickness wasn't something I could ignore. There was also a paper wrapper that looked like it had been bundling the bills. The wrapper had a stamp that said it was a bundle of 1,000,000 yen. He usually kept some cash at home because it was troublesome to go to the bank every time he needed money. It was usually around 100,000 to 200,000 yen at most. He'd never kept such a big amount of money at home before because he knows it's unsafe. The extraordinary amount of 10,000 yen bills was abnormally intimidating. I tried to open the bank book, but my fingers got numb all of a sudden. A part of me was trying to deny the things I heard at the coffee house. It wasn't because I wanted to defend my father or even Rena-san. was because I didn't want to believe my father was the husband in Hinamizawa the blackmailers were talking about. Oh, that's a face we don't like to see. Or, not face, it's a background we don't like to see because it's, I feel like, never associated with anything besides pure rage. You know? Very strong emotions. There's a lot of tension here for me. I wonder if he's gonna come back in the middle of this, or if she's gonna be able to actually do this. I opened the bank book. The last time I saw it was about 2 or 3 months ago. It shows countless withdrawals since that day. I probably wouldn't normally understand what those numbers meant, but I felt in that moment as if the 10 different digits were speaking to me. They were a series of cruel digits. It starts with some understandable expenses that I assume represent dinners or something, but then the amount of money starts to become nice round numbers, like a 5 or a 10. I can tell by looking at the dates he withdrew the money that he wanted to have a certain amount of cash on hand when he went out with Rena-san. Among those expenses, a big number appeared all of a sudden. It was too much money to spend on a date. Hundreds of thousands of yen. I looked at the date of the withdrawal and I traced it back in my memory. I remembered. Around that time, Rena-san was talking about moving into a new apartment. I know the market rate of rental apartments in Okonomiya. You need to put down 2 safety deposits and 2 payments of key money in order to rent an apartment. That amount of withdrawal sounded reasonable now. He paid the whole down payment for her new apartment. After that, big numbers appeared one after another. I could tell they were for congratulatory gifts for her new apartment or something. The numbers got bigger and bigger. It looked like at first he was withdrawing only the amount of money he needed, but then he started withdrawing big amounts all at once because he knew he was going to use it someday anyway. The change meant only one thing. He lost his sense of the value of money. The balance kept going down, and I started feeling anxious about what's going to happen if he continued spending money like that. But then I saw a deposit of a big amount of money into the account. Where did that money come from? There's only one thing I could think of. I opened the other bank book. It was easy, like a puzzle for kids. It was like playing with an easy jigsaw puzzle that comes with huge pieces that you don't even have to put together to see what the whole picture looks like. My father was using money from his time deposits. In other words, the settlement my mother paid my father when she divorced him. To him, it's cursed money. I'd understand if he wanted to use it to get a new love, but that was just an excuse to use the money from his time deposits. Money is money. Even though it's his divorce alimony, it's still important money for our future. Even though it's cursed money to him, that doesn't mean he can waste it. Big expenses start appearing one after another. There are many expenses, upwards of 6 digits. Oh my god. For some reason, I could immediately tell they were for buying electric appliances and furniture. He must have been buying everything she asked him to. If, from the beginning, Rena-san was only seeking to check if he could end up being a big catch, she must have been trying to find how much money she could squeeze out of him. And my father bought her anything she wanted, no matter how expensive it was, so she probably thinks of him as the perfect catch now. The numbers in the bank book told me so. The simple numbers and dates on the bank book had started talking to me. Around the time he started withdrawing big amounts of money, Rena-san started coming to the house more often, and she also started spending the night. To Rena-san, my father was at first just a guy who spends big money, but around that time she landed her big catch. My father used to refer to her as my friend in Okonomiya at first, but he started referring to her as Rena-san around that time. This is partially his fault, but he was betrayed by his beloved wife, and he was feeling hurt and down for a long time. It's also partially my fault. That's why I didn't want to blame him. And he's not that good looking either. There's no way he's immune to women. He must not have been able to resist an attractive lady who aggressively approached him when he was feeling down. He's crazy about Rena-san, and he can see nothing other than her. I can't blame him, because Rena-san trained him to be that way. I put the bank books and the other things back into the cash box. This cash box is just like my father's heart. Rena-san is eating up the contents. What should I do? Think, Rena Ryugu. Should I tell him about Rena-san's scheme? No, that probably wouldn't do anything. The whole point of taming an animal is that it won't run away from its owner even when the door is wide open. Tell my dogs that. My father probably won't leave his cage even if I open the door. Should I confront Rena-san about our plot when he's with her? The results would be the same. Rena-san would run behind his back. He'd probably try to protect her. If she pressed her breasts against his back, he'd protect her no matter what. I couldn't make this a problem between me and him. These backgrounds, it seems to me like she's getting, more angry. Right. I don't know, that's definitely what they mean to me. First of all, I was trying to get rid of Rena-san for his sake. If we got mad at each other, it would give the advantage to Rena-san. It would be like I was putting myself into her trap. Then that meant I couldn't make him do anything. If I couldn't make him break up with Rena-san, I'd have to talk to Rena-san directly. So instead of making my father fight, I'd have to fight in his place. Look, I get that you're trying to solve this, and you're in a really bad situation. Don't get me wrong. But do you really think you're going to be able to best the professional blackmailer and scammer? Look, they've probably been in a fight or two in their days, you know? But how? That guy, Kasai-san, who was with Shi-chan today, seemed to know the man Rena-san was with. Ooh, she can use Kasai. I wonder if I can somehow meet him again. He looked scary, but I was introduced to him as a friend of Michan. Michan has a lot of power around here. There's no way he would treat me badly. I wonder if he could tell Rena-san and the man to back off from my father. That'd help me a lot. But I didn't know how I could meet him again. I could ask Michan for help, but I don't want her to know about my situation. This is a problem of the Ryugu family. This is nobody's business but mine. Yeah, this is a battle that I'd have to fight alone. I regretted my parents' divorce. I wept about the tragedy I could have prevented if I had tried. I wasn't going to weep this time. I wasn't going to let the chance slip away. This time, I would fight for my happiness. So, is this what she was referring to in the prologue? Okay, that's some big dramatic developments, if I do say so myself. Let's check out this tip. Ooh, the property estimate. Oh no. Let's check out the tip, and we'll kind of talk about what we just saw. I think most of it's self-explanatory, but we'll still talk about it a bit. Property estimate. Dear Ritsuko Mamiya-sama. Sama. Executive Housing Corporation. Attached estimate. We thank you for your past visits and inquiries to our office. We've included the estimate for the property you inquired about. Basic information. Property name, Palace of Versailles, Room 707. Property code, 14M1421. Property type, modern condominium. Layout, 2LDK. Address, Shishibone City, Koiwacho, 2 Chome? I probably butchered that. Transportation, XXX line, Gogura Station, 5 minutes on foot. Cost. That says 50 million yen. Maintenance fee, 20,000 yen. Other, southeast corner room, elevator floor. Condominium fitness club membership included. Thank you for your interest in this property. The area around Gogura Station is a prime real estate zone for luxury condominiums. Along with future planned developments, the real estate value in and around the Gogura Station are expected to rise, and this property is not an exception. As a result, many prospective buyers are interested in this property. Hence, we'd like for you to understand that the selection process for this property will be done via lottery. Also, we also offer celebrity member preferential treatment, granting highly improved chances through additional lottery entries. Please feel free to inquire with our agents for more details. Executive Housing Corporation. Celebrity Account Manager, Kawabata. Interesting. So that's literally all of the money. Like, literally everything. Well. Okay, so I mean, this was a big one. This was a big subchapter. Here we see. Oh man. I mean, like I said, mostly self-explanatory. Rena went to this coffee shop while she was out, and she found Teppei and Rena together. Which isn't shocking. We knew that was like almost certainly was. Like, they were together. And it explains a lot. That this is all a scheme to get the money from Rena's father, which he got a lot of money from the divorce, like a lot of money, and Rena realized that there is a lot of money here, and that she can convince him to spend it. And the thing is, Rena catches wind of this, and she realizes this is like she's straight up a villain, right? Like this is not like a misunderstanding. No, like that is just who she is. She's trying to take their money, and it's pretty obvious when you look at the bank balances. So she's set to stop this. Like, mentally, she's prepared. She thinks she's going to have to confront Rena herself. Ideally, she wants to go through Kasai, who she met at the coffee shop. That's her plan right now. I mean, honestly, that's the main thing we need to talk about. I don't know. There's other things, obviously, like, we see more of Rena's, like, depression, Keiichi's accidental insensitivity, as is normal for Keiichi. Right? How she doesn't feel welcomed at home anymore. And she's seeing the old furniture go away, and it's, despite her resentment for it, it's like, it feels, I guess, kind of like losing a part of her, right? She hates her mother, but it's the last remnants of her, and so she, like, it's still hard for her despite everything. Also, her junk is getting thrown away, and I can't imagine that makes her feel welcome at home, to have her stuff basically thrown away without even, like, being addressed about it. So, I mean, like, Rena's already not feeling super great, and a lot of this, she's like, it's because Rena-san, right? Like, she already didn't like her, and then now she's finding out she's trying to scam her dad. Ooh, boy. I mean, I think this is probably what she's so determined about in the intro, you know? What she was talking about, she's going to seize her happiness. She doesn't regret what she did. I assume it's going to be whatever the resolution of this situation is. That is what she's referring to. The other big thing I want to talk about is Kasai. He walked in that place and everyone was scared of him, right? Like, even Teppei was like, my bad, bro. Let me step to the side, right? Like, Teppei? Teppei. How's Teppei going to show you some respect? That's crazy. Right, look, it could just be that he's, like, well known for what he's done in the past, but I see that. I can't help but feel like he's still kind of active, despite them making it seem like he was no longer an active gangster, right? So what's he really up to? That's interesting. I had never really thought about doubting Kasai. It's not that I fully trust him, I just never really thought to doubt him, but, like, what is going on with him? He showed the same exact demeanor that we'd expect from Kasai while he was there, but Shion was there. Would that be different if Shion wasn't there? Also, Rena calls him general manager, so I assume he is the general manager of some establishment, probably one that she works at, right? Maybe the, what was it, like the Flower Road or something like that, is one of them. That's the one he mentioned. Also, in the other tip, it mentioned the Blue Mermaid. Whoops, that didn't take long. Forgot how short that tip was. Yeah, not much there. So the Blue Mermaid is the other place. She's a private manager there. I don't know. The point is, they seem to have some kind of relation, and she seemed to have some general respect for him too. So I'm like, people know who Kasai is, right? People respect him. And while this could just, again, be his reputation, you gotta wonder if that means he's still active. Is he still doing things that they made it seem like he didn't, you know? It's very interesting to think about. But I think most of this episode is self-explanatory. It just, like I said, kind of sets up this plot of Rena's going to try to stop Rena-san from scamming the hell out of her dad. Because she's trying to reclaim her happiness, and she believes that this is the best way there. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly she does. I'm sure it's going to be extreme. I kind of wonder if it's going to result in Rena getting killed, whether by her or by, like, Kasai, I don't know. Maybe this is how that happens, because this is something I wanted to bring up, but actually I was literally in the middle of the break that I took in this episode. I got a comment suggesting that there's a very high chance that this is set on 6/12, like the date, like June 12th. And I can pull up chapter 3 again. Let me do that. Actually, I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do that another time. But I think June 12th lines up. To be clear, the reason this is thought, they mentioned this because it was the prior day where we met Rena, which I guess is like 2 prior days now. Was it? No, because the first subchapter was that same day, actually. The day we met Rena was a Sunday, right? And it was a Sunday in June, and Watanagashi hasn't happened yet. So it either has to be the 12th or the 5th, because Watanagashi is always on, I believe, the 3rd Sunday of the month. At the very least, it's on the 19th, so it doesn't really matter if it's 3rd Sunday or not. It's on the 19th. But the important thing is the 12th does fit into that little pocket in chapter 3 that is like between the baseball game, so they could have met Irie, they could have met Kaneda, right? And before Teppei returns, and so presumably before things kind of reach ahead. And so this could fit into chapter 3. Like I said, I'm not even 100% sure that this is going to be like a direct one-to-one with a chapter, just like we got before with chapter 5. But it feels like it could fit with chapter 3. And if it does, if somehow maybe Rena gets in contact with Kasai tomorrow and like Rena is dead, like within the day or something ridiculous like that, right? I don't know. It could kick off the events of chapter 3. I don't know if that fully fits the timeline. Like I said, I'd have to look a little more in depth, but it's kind of an interesting thought. Like, what if Teppei's return was accidentally kicked off by Rena, right? We'll see. We will definitely see. That's interesting for me to think about. But I wouldn't be shocked if this kind of spirals into its own scenario. I don't know, because like I said, with the way the time works, I don't know that there would be enough time to fully resolve that arc, right, before Teppei returns, if that makes sense. Like, I think it would like literally have to be the very next in-game day that Rena is dead. And I mean, part of the reason Rena is dead is because money was stolen from the Blue Mermaid, right? Like, and so unless Rena convinces Kasai that's what happened, like, I don't know. I don't really know. Or maybe she, like, breaks up the scheme and then Rena's like, well, I still want 50 million. Or I need 50 million for whatever reason. It robs the Blue Mermaid, just as a potential example. I don't know. Right? Still, that would be really tight on the timeline, so I'm not 100% sure on this. It's very possible, though. I think it could fit. Like I said, I'd have to look a little deeper. But I'm very interested to see where we go from here. What is Rena going to do? Like, that's the big question. What is Rena going to do? Is this going to fill the hole in her heart? Probably not. Realistically, probably not. Like, is it going to make her happy? Not likely, no. But I'm still very interested to see exactly how this is going to go down. We're seeing a side of Rena that we hadn't really seen before. And it's really interesting to see. It's certainly making her a much more interesting character than I found her to be before. I'm going to be honest. Don't crucify me for this. Before this chapter, Rena might have been my least favorite of the main characters. Either her or Satoko, probably. But they're certainly adding some depth to her. And that's much appreciated. That's much appreciated. I'm excited to see where they keep going with Rena. I'm excited to see what exactly happens, and eventually what answers we get, because we're going to have to get some kind of answers here, right? Some, or at least some hints about what might be going on. Even if they're not direct one-to-one with prior chapters, I assume we're going to learn some things, right? And so what exactly are we going to learn, right? I'm not even sure yet, right? I literally do not know. I literally don't know. So, like I said, that's going to be all for this episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I am looking forward to playing again. I will probably play again tomorrow, so you can probably expect another video tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I know I did. This chapter it definitely picked up today. Yeah, the last video was kind of underwhelming to me. There was some interesting stuff in there. Don't get me wrong, I could tell there was some interesting setup. And some, like, the intro in particular was pretty interesting. But, like, while it was a fun episode, I'm here for kind of answers, right? Not the, like, slice of life scenes for the most part at this point, if that makes sense. Not that I hate them, but I was expecting not slice of life. And this episode, we got not slice of life. And so, you know, this is more what I was looking for. Again, this isn't even to diss the slice of life. It was good fun. It's just not what I was expecting. And so, I definitely enjoyed this one a little more. We're definitely starting to kick into things a little bit. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to see where we go from here. That's going to be all we have time for today. Next episode should be out tomorrow, but either way, who knows. Whenever it does come out, though, and whenever you guys are watching, I hope to see you guys there. Peace.